Welcome to r/Entitled People Stories, where an insane Karen is demanding that OP coaches her son. Karen demands I coach her son in the gym. I, 23 male, have been going to this local gym for a few years now. It's my escape after work. I put my headphones on and I just focus on my own progress. I've put a lot of work into my physique, so I guess I look like I know what I'm doing to most people. About a month ago, this woman started working out at the same time as me. She's in her 40s, and she was pretty friendly at first. She would come over to the squat rack or the bench press area and just make small talk with me. At first, it was just asking how much weight I was lifting or how strong I looked. Then it started getting a bit more obvious. She'd make comments about how she wished she could find a guy like me. It was pretty obvious she was flirting. Honestly, I just thought it was funny. I just give a polite smile and keep my sets going, because I'm there to train, not to socialize. She started asking me to help her rack her weights or move plates around, which was a bit weird, but I didn't mind helping out for a bit. It felt like she was just trying to find excuses to get me to stop and talk to her. I played along just to be nice, but I never gave her my number or anything like that. Last Tuesday was when things got weird. I walked into the gym and I saw her standing by the entrance with a kid who looked to be around 12 years old. He looked pretty bored, like he definitely didn't want to be spending his after-school time in the gym. As soon as I walked in, she waved me over with this huge grin on her face. I figured I'd just say hi and keep moving, but she didn't let me off that easy. She introduced me to her son and told me how she had been bragging to him about how much of a fitness expert I was. She looked at me and said that she really wanted her son to get into lifting instead of video games and anime. She asked if I could take him under my wing and show him the ropes. I told her that I really needed to focus on my own routine when I'm there. I explained that I have a specific program I follow, and honestly, I'm not even a trainer. I told her I just don't have the time to supervise a 12-year-old while I'm trying to get my own work done. She just laughed it off like I told her a really funny joke. She said something about how it wouldn't hurt me to spend 20 minutes showing him some basic exercises. I stood my ground and I told her no again. I said that I appreciate her asking, but it's not something I'm comfortable doing. Because if he got hurt or did something wrong, I'd feel responsible. That's when her face changed completely. The smile vanished, and she got this look in her eyes like I'd personally insulted her. She told me it wasn't like I was some professional bodybuilder who had better things to do. She said that I was just a regular guy at the gym, and that I should be grateful she was even asking me for help. It was such a strange thing to say. I just stared at her for a second. She started going on about how she thought we were friends and how she had been so nice to me these past few weeks. It was a classic guilt trip. She basically accused me of being selfish for not wanting to coach her kid for free. I felt like everyone in the free weight area was starting to stare at us. The kid looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. I realized there was no point in arguing with her because she wasn't going to hear me. I just looked at her and said that I really needed to get to my workout and that I couldn't help her. I turned around and walked over to the other side of the gym to start my warm-up. She kept calling my name for a minute, but I kept my headphones on and stayed locked into my workout. I finished up as fast as I could. I didn't even do my usual cool down because I just wanted to get out of there. As I was walking toward the locker room, she intercepted me again. She blocked my path and told me I was being incredibly rude and that I wasn't the person she thought I was. I didn't even respond. I just walked around her and went into the locker room. I showered and I changed and I got out of that place as fast as I could. I haven't been back since that day because I'm dreading seeing her there again. I don't know if I should change my gym schedule or just show up and ignore her completely. Update 1 week later. So I decided I was finally ready to go back to the gym. I figured if I just kept my headphones in and stayed in the zone, she'd get the hint that I was there to work out and not to deal with her drama. I walked in and started my routine, and for the first 20 minutes, everything was fine. I was in the middle of a set when I felt someone standing near me. I pulled my headphones down, and there she was. She actually looked a bit embarrassed. She started by apologizing for how she acted last time. She told me she felt terrible about blowing up and that she didn't mean to cause a scene. Then she hit me with the justification. She said she just really likes me as a person and that she was really hoping that her son could have a positive male role model in his life. It was a lot to take in at once. I told her that it was okay and that we could move past it, but I also made it clear that she needed to keep her cool in the future because I really hate conflict. I just want to live in peace. Then she offered to cook me a nice dinner as a way to make up for the outburst. I thanked her, but I told her I wasn't interested. I'm not really into the idea of going over to a gym acquaintance's house for dinner. That's when she pushed back. She asked if I thought she couldn't cook or something. I tried to explain that it wasn't about her cooking skills, but she cut me off again. She asked if I was afraid to go to her place. It was such an awkward spot to be in, and I just didn't even know what to say. Before I could even find the right words to shut it down, she changed tactics. She said fine, she would just buy me Applebee's after our workout instead. She didn't even wait for an answer before she turned around and walked away to start her own workout. I just stood there for a second. But then I figured I might as well just go along with it. I mean, if I have to deal with the awkwardness, I might as well get a free meal out of the deal for all the trouble she put me through last time. We finished up our workouts and met up at Applebee's like she said. To my surprise, things actually went totally fine. She wasn't acting crazy or trying to guilt trip me anymore. We just talked about our lives, and it was a pretty decent dinner. She talked a lot about her son and how he never gets to see his dad because the guy lives abroad and never visits. She also told me her parents are rich and they pay for all of their living expenses, so she doesn't even work. It was interesting to say the least. I left there thinking that maybe we had finally cleared the air and that she had let me get my workouts in peace from now on. I'm hoping the drama is behind us, but I'll definitely update if anything else crazy happens. Update. I have some good news to report after everything that's happened. The woman at the gym has finally started to leave me alone. It's a massive relief to be able to go in there and actually get through my entire session without having to look over my shoulder. But the situation has taken a pretty funny turn. Now, she's constantly with this other guy. He looks a few years older than me, and he's a massive dude, way bigger than me. I see him at the gym all the time. It's pretty clear they're dating because they're always glued to each other. They work out together, they're constantly flirting, and I see them arriving and leaving the gym at the same time. I was working out near them the other day, and I decided to be the bigger person, so I gave her a polite smile and said hi as I walked past. She didn't even stop. She just gave a scoff and kept right on walking like I was some kind of a nuisance. Part of me felt a little hurt for a split second because I had been nothing but respectful. Then I just started laughing. It's kind of hilarious how quickly the dynamic shifted. The best part happened right after that. I was doing my thing on a machine close to where they were, and I accidentally caught a piece of their conversation. She was looking at the new guy and pointed at me and said, "That guy used to constantly hit on me. Can you believe that?" I almost dropped my weights when I heard that. The other guy just laughed it off like it was nothing, and they kept right on with their workout. I just shook my head and kept doing my own thing. I really hope things work out for them if they're meant to be together. As long as she's found someone else to focus all that energy on, I'm perfectly happy to just be a stranger in the background again. I'm just glad to have my gym routine back to normal. Update 1 month later. It's been a month since my last update, and I figured I'd share what went down at the gym recently because it was insane. I was just finishing up my last few sets when I saw the guy that she had been dating. He looked completely drained. He was working out by himself, looking absolutely furious, and he was making all kinds of noise while he lifted. It was obvious something was seriously wrong. Then she walked in and tried to go over and talk to him, but the second she got close, he started yelling at her to get away from him. He was calling her a liar, and it was loud enough that the whole gym went silent. The staff had to jump in and get between them before things got out of hand. She kept trying to apologize while she was crying, but he wasn't having any of it. The staff ended up leading her away from him because honestly, nobody would have been able to stop that guy if he'd actually lost his temper. He's easily the biggest guy in the gym most of the time, and he looked ready to snap. It was super awkward for everyone watching. Later in the locker room, I ran into the guy again. He was sitting on a bench with his head in his hands, and he looked defeated. I wasn't really sure if I should say anything, but I just asked if he was okay. He looked up at me and told me that she had been lying to him this entire time. She's actually married. I was shocked because I had seen them together for weeks acting like a couple. I mentioned to him that she had told me her ex-husband lived overseas, and he said that she told him the exact same thing. Turns out, her husband doesn't live overseas at all. He just travels a lot for work. He told me that he still can't believe it. I just told him to hang in there, and I got out of there. The whole way home, I couldn't stop thinking about how that could have easily been me. After that dinner we had, I was actually starting to think she was pretty cool. If things had gone differently, I probably would have been up for another date or even seeing where things went with her. It's crazy to think that I dodged that bullet. I'm just really grateful that it wasn't me in that guy's shoes. It definitely makes me realize I need to be more careful about who I let into my life. I'm just going to stick to my own workouts from now on. OP, I'm so glad you dodged that bullet. Take this as a lesson to always be cautious when someone at the gym seems overly flirty right off the bat. Most of us are there to get our workout in, not to date. When someone starts using the gym to fish for attention or drama, it's usually a huge red flag that they're not there for the right reasons. Always keep your headphones in and stay focused. It's never worth the headache. I feel the worst of all for her husband in this situation. It's pretty clear she's not living in reality. She probably lied to them both about her parents being rich or whatever to make herself seem more interesting, while her husband is the one working his butt off to fund their entire lifestyle while she doesn't even work. I really wonder how long she planned on keeping that lie going before it all came crashing down like this. It's honestly pathetic that she had to manufacture an entire fake persona just to have a little excitement at the gym. Update. I've had a few people asking me how the big guy actually found out about the husband, so I figured I'd clear that up. I wasn't planning on asking him about it at all because it is pretty personal, and let's be real, the guy is basically the size of Thor. He's not exactly someone you want to tick off or get too comfortable with. But after that drama died down, he actually started asking me to spot him on his heavier lifts. I didn't have a problem with that, so we started talking a bit more at the gym. One day we were cooling down and the topic just kind of came up naturally. I asked him how he finally caught her in the lie, and he told me the whole story. It turns out that he had been planning a weekend trip for them to go to a beach resort a couple of hours away. He had been trying to finalize the booking on his phone while they were at her place. She was in the kitchen doing something while he was on the sofa and he saw her phone light up. He picked up her phone and immediately saw a notification pop up on the lock screen from her husband. It wasn't just a simple text either. It was something about how he can't wait to get back from his trip and how much he missed her. He realized right then and there that the house he was sitting in wasn't even hers, and the life she had been playing out for weeks was a total lie. He didn't even say anything to her at first. He just put the phone down, grabbed his bag, and walked out of the house while she was still in the other room. He said he was so angry that he went straight to the gym to try and sweat it out, which explains why he was in such a bad mood when I saw him that day. He also mentioned that he did a little digging afterwards and found her husband on Facebook. He messaged him telling him everything, and the husband just said thanks, that this wasn't the first time something like this has happened, but that now he knows it's time to follow through with divorce. On a lighter note, Big Guy told me that he met someone else recently and that things are going well for them. Hopefully this one doesn't turn out to be anything like the last one. Wow, that was one heck of a ride. The annoying lady at the gym turned out to be a complete train wreck waiting to happen. Yeah, OP really dodged a bullet on that one. But the other guy wasn't so lucky. Dude should have just focused on his gains. Hey, maybe Karen helped him with his gains. He was definitely getting an awesome workout in after she broke his heart. No better way to mend a broken heart than by doing something you absolutely love. Smash that like button if you agree. Telling a new employee that he's not cut out for the job. I began managing a new team last month. The team is very green. More than half of them graduated less than 2 years ago. During the last 2 years, this department only had a manager for about 9 months, and by all accounts, she was completely unqualified. I was brought in as an experienced manager to provide technical oversight, development, and some much-needed stability. My field is one where you get a fairly generalized degree and then choose a specialty that you learn mostly through on-the-job training. Early career folks can usually switch specialties without too much trouble, which is part of what makes this situation so frustrating. One of my new direct reports, Tom, has 0 to negative natural talent for his chosen specialty. I know that's a harsh thing to say about someone I've only recently started working with, especially someone who never received adequate training to begin with. I've worked with a lot of early career employees in this specialty though, and Tom stands out as one of the worst I've ever encountered. Past interns have grasped more concepts, tools, and workflows more quickly than he has. I'm not saying he's not smart. He absolutely is. In fact, I can clearly see areas where he could be successful. There are other specialties within our company where I think he'd do very well. The problem is that the more time I spend talking through tasks with him, the more I realize his brain simply isn't wired for this particular role. The best analogy I can come up with is this. It's like trying to explain that an apple and a snake are completely different things. You explain it over and over again. You draw diagrams, you give examples. You walk through the logic step by step. Meanwhile, Tom gets increasingly frustrated because he can't understand why I'm ignoring the fact that both are smooth-skinned and therefore interchangeable. That's what it feels like trying to teach him certain core concepts. He also has a bit of what I'd describe as defensive know-it-allism. The more confused he becomes, the more convinced he is that everyone else is missing something obvious. On one hand, I genuinely want to spare him. I can tell he's frustrated. I can tell he's burned out. He's working 10 times harder than he should have to on tasks that should be relatively straightforward at his experience level. His teammates are running low on patience and constantly look for ways to avoid being paired with him. People in neighboring departments don't trust his advice and regularly find ways to work around him rather than through him. Part of me feels it's a disservice to both of us to create an elaborate training plan and spend months investing time and effort into improvements that may never materialize. The gap doesn't seem to be a matter of experience anymore. It feels much more fundamental than that. On the other hand, I have no idea how to sit across from an exhausted, discouraged young man and say, "You're probably not going to succeed in this role. Let's find you a different job that you're better suited for." That feels incredibly cruel. What makes it even harder is that I suspect his response wouldn't be to explore other options. I think he'd view it as a failure and immediately double down. Instead of accepting that the fit might be wrong, he'd probably become even more determined to master the job. Then he'd have to do it while carrying around the knowledge that his manager doesn't believe he's capable of succeeding. Part of me thinks redirecting him now would be the kindest thing I could do. Another part of me worries I'd be crushing whatever confidence he has left. What would you do? That apple and snake analogy is one of the best descriptions of a bad job fit that I've ever read. What stands out to me is that you aren't describing someone who's lazy, unintelligent, or unwilling to work. You're describing someone who appears to be putting in enormous effort and still not getting meaningful results. That's exactly the kind of person who can thrive once they're moved into the right environment. The challenge isn't convincing him that he's failing. It's convincing him that being a poor fit for one specialty doesn't mean he's a poor fit everywhere else. I've had to manage someone with the opposite problem. We needed someone who could recognize patterns and apply previous experience to new situations. Instead, every tiny difference completely reset their thinking. If they learned how to do task A on Monday and task B on Tuesday was 95% identical, they'd still treat it like a brand new problem requiring research from scratch. Some people just process information differently. That doesn't make them bad employees. It does mean certain jobs become painful for everyone involved when the fit isn't there. One thing I appreciate about this post is that you're clearly approaching it from a place of concern rather than frustration. A lot of managers would jump straight to performance warnings or termination. You're actually asking how to help this person find something they're better suited for. If you've genuinely identified strengths that would be valuable elsewhere in the company, I think it's worth having that conversation sooner rather than later. Being successful in the wrong job is hard. Being successful in the right one can completely change someone's career. Update 8 months later. First, a clarification. I was new to the team, but my direct report, Tom, had already been in this role for 2 years. A lot of commenters suggested I might be jumping to conclusions, and that was a fair concern. I worried about that too. Before making any decisions, I spent several weeks trying to better understand how Tom saw the situation. I scheduled a series of one-on-one meetings focused less on performance and more on understanding why he had chosen this specialty in the first place, what he enjoyed about it, and where he saw himself long-term. His answer surprised me a little. Tom said he liked work that was black and white, with clear rules and straightforward answers. Our specialty does involve a fair amount of rule enforcement, so on the surface that made sense. The problem is that the job only appears black and white from a distance. After spending more time reviewing his work and observing how he approached problems, I eventually sat down with him and explained something I thought was important. A robot can blindly enforce rules. Someone who excels in our specialty has to understand why those rules exist, when exceptions apply, and how to navigate the gray areas that appear constantly. Good judgment matters just as much as technical knowledge. I also explained that several of his existing strengths would make him a strong candidate for other departments, while some of the skills he struggled with would continue to hold him back in this one. I even mapped the whole thing out on a Venn diagram. Prior to having that conversation, I'd already spoken with the manager of another department. I wanted to make sure there was a potential landing spot available before encouraging Tom to explore a different path. She had an upcoming vacancy and agreed to expect an informational interview request if Tom decided he was interested. I also gave Tom the contact information of a friend who worked in that specialty at another company so he could get completely independent feedback. On top of that, I gathered several alternative job descriptions and encouraged him to explore multiple options if my original suggestion didn't appeal to him. Tom never contacted either person. Instead, he went to one of his mentors within our specialty and told them that I'd said he sucks at his job. For the record, I absolutely did not say that. The mentor assured Tom that he was actually a perfect fit for the role and then proceeded to tell me off for damaging his confidence. Since the mentor felt strongly that a different teaching style might help, we agreed they would take a more direct role in coaching him. About a month later, that same mentor came back to me, apologized, and informed me that the situation was hopeless. Their recommendation was that I start preparing a PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. Around the same time, Tom's performance began deteriorating significantly. Previously, he'd been working extremely hard just to stay afloat. Once he became convinced that he was being treated unfairly, he seemed to stop trying altogether. I caught him leaving work hours early on multiple occasions. He began showing up hours late once or twice a week. Mondays became particularly problematic. Sometimes he would arrive looking like he had a very rough weekend. Other times he would simply call off entirely. At that point, I involved HR. To be clear, my concern wasn't disciplinary at first. I was genuinely worried there might be burnout, mental health struggles, or something else happening behind the scenes. Together with HR, we held a difficult conversation outlining the behaviors that needed immediate improvement while also discussing support resources and available leave options. To Tom's credit, he did improve significantly in one area. His attendance returned to roughly 95% compliance with expected work hours. Then, an unexpected opportunity appeared. A project-based position opened up on my team. To be completely transparent, it was a really fun assignment. Several other members of my team probably deserved it more. Looking back, I understand why some people would question the decision. At the time, though, I still felt responsible for helping Tom recover from what had been an exceptionally unsupportive start to his career. The project also aligned almost perfectly with the skills he had repeatedly claimed to enjoy using. If there was ever going to be a role where he could thrive, this seemed like it was it. So I gave him the opportunity. The results have been extremely mediocre. He's capable of doing the work. He understands the work. He even seems to enjoy the work. The problem is that he constantly puts in exactly enough effort to earn a passing grade and not a drop more. I've come to realize that Tom knows what C-level effort looks like and deliberately calibrates himself to that level. Nothing collapses, yet nothing shines. Everything simply exists. That part has been frustrating. At the same time, he does seem happier. His stress levels appear lower. The replacement we hired for his previous role has been much more successful, which has improved morale across the team. In a strange way, everyone is doing a little better now. When this project eventually ends, I don't see a realistic path forward if things remain unchanged. If he returns to a traditional role and continues performing at the same level, it will be past time to move forward with a formal performance improvement plan. At this stage, I can no longer recommend him to another department in good conscience. Too much has happened since that first conversation. Looking back, I was probably too soft on him throughout this process. Still, I feel good knowing that I tried everything I could think of. I offered guidance, alternative paths, outside perspectives, additional coaching, support resources, flexibility, and opportunities specifically designed around his strengths. At some point, there simply isn't anything else a manager can do. Sometimes you can lead a horse to the water, but the horse still has to decide to drink. Edit. Several people have asked what industry this is. I'm intentionally being vague because it's a relatively small professional world and I'd rather not identify myself or Tom, fake name. Think of it this way. Imagine a job where the rulebook says one thing, the real-world situation says another, and your job is figuring out how to apply both without causing a disaster. Someone who's great at this role needs to understand not just what the rules are, but why they exist, and when exceptions or judgment calls might apply. Tom is the type of person who wants every situation to have one clear answer. Unfortunately, our specialty is full of situations where the answer is, well, it depends. The way I see it, Tom's biggest obstacle doesn't seem to be aptitude anymore. It sounds like it's become attitude. Early on, I felt sympathetic because plenty of people end up in jobs that aren't a good fit. Once someone starts rejecting every suggestion, ignoring every opportunity, dismissing feedback, and putting in the bare minimum effort, the conversation changes. You can't build a successful career for someone who refuses to participate in the process. I appreciate how much effort you put into trying to help him, but I have to admit, I'd be a little frustrated if I were one of your stronger employees. From their perspective, they watch someone struggle for years, reject advice, create extra work for others, and then receive the most interesting project on the team. I completely understand your reasoning and your intentions were clearly good, but I can also see why some coworkers might feel the reward went to the wrong person. One of the best management lessons I ever received was this. The employee has to want success more than the manager does. Reading this update, it feels like you spent months trying to create opportunities for Tom, while Tom spent months looking for reasons those opportunities wouldn't work. At some point, continuing to pour time and energy into the situation stops being support, and it starts becoming avoidance of an inevitable outcome. Update 9 months later. After far too long, I was finally able to terminate Tom. As the fun project continued, a familiar pattern started emerging. Tom repeatedly told me he was overwhelmed, and little by little, I found myself stepping in to do more and more of his work for him. Looking back, I'm still irritated with myself for how easily I fell into that trap. Don't ask me why I found his requests for help so compelling. I still don't have a good answer. Following our needs improvement conversation, his performance actually improved for a few months. For a brief period, I thought we might finally be turning a corner. Then something snapped. His work didn't slowly decline, it fell off a cliff. Important meetings were missed entirely. Entire afternoons would pass where nobody could locate him anywhere on campus. I'd send him an instant message at 4 p.m. and wouldn't receive a response until 10 the following morning. Every time I confronted him, there was an excuse ready to go. Some were plausible, most weren't. Motivating someone is difficult when they don't seem to care about the impact their actions have on everyone around them. It's even harder when they know none of the consequences you're threatening are likely to happen. For nearly 5 months, I tried to get HR involved in a meaningful way. I wanted badge swipe data pulled so we could verify attendance. I wanted support for a PIP. I wanted literally any form of action. Instead, my emails and Teams messages disappeared into the void. One HR contact ignored multiple follow-ups before going on maternity leave. The temporary replacement told me the information I needed was somehow protected. Meanwhile, I was operating without a manager of my own because mine had been fired with no replacement lined up. Eventually, a new HR generalist arrived and agreed to look into the situation herself. The results were shocking. Over the previous 6 months, Tom had averaged approximately 25 hours per week on campus. For context, this was a position that could not be performed remotely. I bet it was overwhelming for him to get his work done while working half-time. I was furious. A bit more context. Our organization works on government contracts, and attendance fraud is treated very seriously. My immediate assumption was that this would finally be the point where HR moved to terminate him. Instead, he received a formal written warning. That was it. As part of the warning, specific work hours were established that he was required to follow. For a short time, he complied. Then he found a new version of the bare minimum. He would arrive around 8:10 every morning. He'd take long lunches. He'd leave around 4:20 in the afternoon. Whenever I raised concerns, he'd point out that some of his coworkers followed similar schedules. The difference, of course, was that his coworkers actually completed their work. Still couldn't fire him. Then the new year arrived. Tom started calling in sick nearly every Monday and Friday until he eventually exhausted his available leave time. Still couldn't fire him. Then came the meeting. A major customer meeting had been scheduled, the kind where punctuality and professionalism actually matter. Tom arrived about 20 minutes late. When I asked what happened, he casually shrugged and said, "Well, that part is just boring introductions anyway." Unfortunately for Tom, he made that comment directly in front of an executive. Fortunately for me, he made that comment directly in front of an executive. That was finally enough. After all the attendance issues, missed meetings, ignored messages, excuses, warnings, coaching sessions, and second chances, that single moment accomplished what years of documentation apparently could not. I got approval to terminate him. But there was one final twist. I didn't receive a replacement. Now I'm doing roughly 40 hours of Tom's work every week instead of the 15 hours I was already covering before. That's probably another post entirely. Looking back, the whole experience taught me something valuable. No matter how much management experience you have, you'll always have blind spots. I wanted Tom to succeed more than Tom wanted to succeed himself. That realization hit harder than anything else in this entire process. The silver lining is that I've been incredibly fortunate throughout my career. Most of the people I've managed over the last decade have been conscientious, hardworking, and genuinely interested in improving. Tom was the exception, not the rule. I also want to acknowledge the people who warned me that I was allowing Tom to fail upward. They weren't wrong. Giving him the special project was clearly a mistake. At the same time, there's always more context than can fit into a brief update. For starters, the project role was completely independent and required strict rule interpretation, which happened to be Tom's favorite thing. His original position required constant collaboration, judgment calls, and an understanding of human behavior. Once he moved into the project role, the rest of the team functioned much more smoothly. People actually started inviting him to informal lunches and happy hours again because they no longer had to rely on him for day-to-day work. The project also wasn't stolen from some superstar employee. I advertised it broadly within the team and nobody wanted it. Most people had recently settled into new responsibilities and weren't interested in changing roles again. Looking back, I probably could have convinced one of my stronger employees to take it on, and it likely would have benefited their career. At the same time, I respected their desire to stay focused on mastering their current positions instead of constantly chasing visibility and extra assignments. One thing I still don't fully understand is Tom's popularity. As a coworker, people found him exhausting. As the fun project guy, everyone seemed to love him. I'm convinced he could have a successful future as a con artist if he ever decided to apply himself. My team was pretty angry when I fired him. After that final conversation, he somehow managed to text most of the team before I even made it back to the office. That was fun. The following weeks were filled with one-on-one meetings, reassuring employees that they were not about to be fired without warning. I explained that performance-based terminations involve a lengthy process and that nobody wakes up one morning to discover they've accidentally been fired. Throughout all those conversations, I somehow resisted making sarcastic comments about how difficult HR had made the process. It's been a rough month. Still, there's a bright side. We're opening a search for Tom's replacement, and several internal candidates are expected to apply. One of the strongest candidates is a mentee from another department. They're doing okay where they are now. They're likely going to be a fantastic fit there. Funny how things have come full circle. The biggest lesson here is you can't care more about someone's career than they do. Every update felt like OP creating another opportunity, another safety net, another path forward, while Tom kept finding new ways to avoid responsibility. At some point, continued support stops being compassion and starts becoming enablement. I know some Redditors were critical of OP for giving Tom the project assignment, but after reading this update, I understand the reasoning a lot better. The reassignment wasn't just about helping Tom. It also removed him from a role where he was creating friction for the entire team. If morale improved, collaboration improved, and the rest of the department became more productive, then the move wasn't a complete failure, even if Tom ultimately squandered the opportunity. So, after all of that, Tom finally got fired.
Yup, it only took missed meetings, disappearing acts, attendance issues, HR delays, and an executive witnessing it firsthand.
Sounds like Tom had more plot armor than the main character. I wonder what his real talent was, though.
Convincing everyone he was one good opportunity away from turning things around.
Did he ever turn things around?
Sure he did. Every time he saw accountability coming, he turned right around and walked the other way.
My pregnant daughter, who's 22, is about to marry an incarcerated man. How can I go about this situation? I'm concerned for my daughter. Yes, she's an adult, but I feel like she's making the worst decisions for herself. I don't approve of this at all. My daughter had good things going on for herself. She graduated high school, went to college, and graduated with her associates. Got accepted into dental school, and all of it's going down the drain because she's chosen to invest her time and energy into her soulmate. About a year ago, my daughter started writing letters to prisoners as a pen pal to keep them company. At first, I was uncomfortable with the idea for many reasons. It never crossed my mind that she would fall in love with a criminal, but I still rented a P.O. box for her so she wouldn't give out her address. My daughter was in a healthy relationship with her now ex-fiancé. They've been together since senior year in high school. They just had their first baby over a year ago, expecting another, and they got engaged 6 months ago. A month ago, my daughter told me that she and her fiancé were taking a break, and 2 weeks ago she called off the engagement and left him. He's a complete wreck now. He told me it hurts that his family that he created with my daughter is now broken. He feels so blindsided, as do I, because I believed my daughter was truly in love, but she wasn't. She wasn't happy. I've been very supportive of my daughter during this whole situation. That is, until she told me she was already in a new relationship. I was taken aback. I obviously started questioning her about it, and she confessed that she had fallen for one of the prisoners she's written to. In fact, they've been together for 3 months. It makes me so sick to my stomach even typing this out right now, because I just can't believe it. She said they've been in contact for almost 8 months, and since they've fallen more and more in love with each other. She's visited him multiple times. In fact, she's even taken my grandson to see this man. She's shown me pictures of them embracing and him holding the baby. I've done some research and looked up his charges, and I'm livid she even brought my grandson, even herself, around someone who could do such horrible things. I'm terrified for my daughter and my grandson. I've tried expressing my concerns to her, but she's in a whole nother world. She told me the last in-person visit they had, he popped the question, and she said yes. That was when I snapped. I was, and am, very upset about this whole situation, and she's hurt that I'm not supportive of her decisions. She defended their relationship and her choices, and we started arguing. It got so bad that now she's not speaking to me or allowing me to see my grandbaby, and it breaks my heart. I love my daughter, but I will never approve of this relationship. I understand that as an adult, she has the right to make her own choices, and I've always been proud of her independence. But as someone who truly loves her deeply, it's hard for me to watch her make a decision that I feel could be harmful to herself and my grandson. I'm scared for her because of what I've learned about this person's past, and I can't shake the fear of what could happen. I don't want to lose her or my grandson to a situation that seems so risky. I don't know what else I can do, and I feel hopeless. What else can I do? Update. After receiving a lot of comments with suggestions on how I should handle the situation, I told the father of my grandchildren about what's been going on. He was my soon-to-be son-in-law, and I've grown to love him as if he were my own. I believe he has every right to know about the well-being of his kids, so I confessed everything to him. Thankfully, I have a family therapist who is a very close friend of mine. She's been here with us since the divorce between me and my ex-husband. I called her, we spoke about the situation, and she agreed to guide me to tell the kid's father. I called him over to my home, and we all had a very long talk. I let him know everything, and he broke down, crying hysterically. It was horrible. He felt so violated, not only as a partner to her, but as a father to their kids. I made it very clear that I would support him no matter the circumstances. At this point, it's not only about my daughter, but my grandkids. We discussed the charges against my daughter's new fiancé, and he was beyond livid. He actually suggested himself taking my daughter to court, and I agreed with him that it would be the best thing to do. We came to an agreement that he wouldn't tell my daughter what he knew. That way, I could get more information to help him plead his case. But yesterday, it really hit the fan. Yesterday, I received angry texts from my daughter, and it didn't end well. He told my daughter that I'd confessed everything to him, and now she's beyond furious and doubling down on her decision. She's also going no contact with me. I called the children's father to ask him what the heck was he thinking, and he explained to me that he wasn't. He's been apologizing nonstop, but the damage has already been done. I'm at a loss for words. I'm heartbroken. I've officially lost my daughter and my grandkids, and I don't know what else to do. I can't imagine not being a part of their lives, and it hurts me deeply. What did I do wrong to deserve this? Is there any way that I can fix this? I'm ghosting my girlfriend, and I don't care if I'm wrong for it anymore. I'm just done. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's a bad reason, but I can't take it anymore. My blood pressure has legit been spiking over this, and I cannot keep this up. I just can't do it. We've been together for close to a year, and this problem has only come up over the past 2 months. She never did this crap when we first got together, and I don't know why she started, but I'm so sick of it. It's crazy. Whenever we get food, she always eats off my plate, no matter what it is or where we are. The only thing that stops her is if I order the exact same thing as her, and she's taken to ordering things that I can't eat so that I can't do that. If I tell her to stop in the moment, she just laughs, and when I talk to her about it privately, she blows me off because it isn't a big deal. But it is to me. I have a history of food insecurity, which makes it a lot worse, and I've tried to explain that, but then she snaps at me that I'm being condescending, and I just can't. Most recently, she had a plate full of her pizza on the table and had eaten over half of my medium pepperoni, and I was so upset I just grabbed 2 slices off her plate without asking, which made her go into shock for a moment before screaming and going red in the face.
You don't even like olives, you jerk. You always have to be right about everything. You can't just let me have one thing.
As if I had been the one consistently stealing from her for months. I just went cold, tossed the pizza back on her plate as she was in my face screaming. Then I just left the apartment. She texted me that there was no reason for me to act like that, and I knew then and there that I was done. I'm getting away from her. Now she's tried to apologize, but I'm not going to hear her again or answering any messages or calls from her. God only knows if she'll decide to call the cops and have me arrested when I haven't even done anything, and I'm not taking the chance. If I'm so awful, then she can get away from me. I know ghosting is wrong. I've been through it before. But after that, I don't know if I trust myself to speak to her cordially again. I want to scream back, but that isn't who I am, and that's not how I was raised. I don't like the person she's turned into, and I hate the person she's turning me into. How my friend got paid to find creative ways to sleep for 19 months. I have a good friend who maliciously complied her way into getting paid for essentially doing absolutely nothing for 19 months. It was a government job, no surprise there. She and her colleague worked in a state office that kept track of plague cases among prairie dog towns. They were super busy trapping and testing all summer, but once winter comes, prairie dogs hibernate, so they ran out of work. They told their boss via email there was no more to do for the season that first autumn, and their boss responded by telling them to stand by for reassignment. So they did, for months. They didn't want to be accused of theft by just clocking in and out and leaving, so in the very beginning, they organized some storage spaces, very slowly, cleaned their office several times, organized paperwork and that sort of thing. When they ran out of things to do, they started sleeping, doing schoolwork, Sudoku. Initially, they slept in turns, so someone was always available if anyone came to check in on them. But when it became obvious no one was coming, they stopped bothering. By summer the following year, when the prairie dogs came out of hibernation and she thought her work might resume, the whole office, all the employees in every department, received an email from someone high up informing everyone that particular department had been cut. Don't know if it was unfunded or they got all the data necessary the previous summer, or that particular pet project of some politician was forgotten about. But somewhere along the line, the state fish and game axed the project for whatever reason. Nothing was mentioned in the email about her job status, so her and her coworker continued to go in and do nothing. She'd tell me about making a giant binder rubber band chain and roping 2 office chairs together facing each other to sleep in the seats. She's only 5 feet tall, so she fit relatively well, making a nest under her desk and moving the large copy machine out of its cabinet and sleeping inside. They made sure the security people saw them periodically throughout the day and they were on camera. Anyone above them paying attention would have noticed, but no one ever took the time. They dodged folks in the other departments for fear they'd get told on and just minded their own business. They rarely had much interaction with other employees anyway. Eventually, she ran into her boss at a show, and she asked my friend where she had found new work. My friend didn't lie and said that she still worked there. Where? Where you left them. She said you should have seen the look on her face when the lady put the pieces together and realized what was going on. The jig was up, and she and her colleague were let go that following morning via email before they went in. Because they had technically worked there for so long, I think 2 years was the threshold, they both got a little severance package. In case you're wondering, they got to keep their pay since 1. They had proof they informed their boss they had no work, and she clearly saw the email and responded. 2. They still showed up. 3. They did exactly what they were told. And 4. It wasn't their job to make sure they actually had work to do. They both qualified for unemployment to boot. Neither of them used the unemployment since they had both been feeling like the gravy train was sure to derail any day, so they had new jobs lined up. Our dog is suddenly very attached to my wife and won't leave her alone. Otis is 3. We adopted him at a year old from the shelter. He's always been very snuggly, and my wife has always been his human. But recently, he's been taking it to another level. Otis is a big black pit bull with docked ears and tail. We adopted him like that. We know that he's a giant ball of blubber and love, but other people don't, so we've been very careful to train him not to be scary. Great manners, no jumping or barking, etc. Basically, this is very out of character for him. A week or 2 ago, my wife got some sort of stomach bug. She was really nauseous and ill for about a week. Otis is very in tune with her emotions. We once got in a fight and she was upset. I swear he was staring daggers at me, and during this time didn't even want to leave her to go on walks. We thought it was adorable. Well, now my wife is feeling much better and his attachment hasn't gone away. It seems like he got used to her being home all day for that week and developed separation anxiety. My wife goes into the bathroom, he cries outside the door. She leaves for work, he mopes by the front door until she gets home. And when she gets home, all he wants to do is cuddle with her. It's getting annoying. Well, half the time it's annoying, the other half it's cute. Then tonight, on their walk through the park, another dog ran up to her and Otis. Lots of people let their dogs run around off-leash even though they're not supposed to. The moment it got near my wife, apparently Otis began to bare his teeth and growl. He's never done this before. We're trying to figure out what's going on. If this is the start of an aggression issue, we'd like to nip it in the bud. We'll call the vet tomorrow for a checkup just to make sure he isn't hurting anywhere and manifesting it like that. But mostly, we're just confused. I don't know if we're overreacting. We may be. Maybe the growling and the attachment were separate incidents, and there was something about that one dog that he really didn't like. Has anyone else's dog suddenly developed attachment or aggression issues? Any chance your wife is pregnant? OP. Uh-oh. Exactly what I thought. Do a pregnancy check. OP. Maybe Otis should parent the kid too, since he's clearly more switched on than either of us. Edit. I've been informed that it's possible my wife is pregnant. She's sleeping now, but I'll tell her and she'll take a test tomorrow morning. Update. My wife is pregnant. Otis is still being overprotective, but it all makes sense now. Thanks for all the advice and kind words. Would I be the jerk if I dumped my boyfriend for being a snobby movie critic? My boyfriend hosts his own podcast dedicated to movies, and he even has his own studio that he's renting out so he can record there. He has some co-hosts, legit recording equipment, and he has a decent following. I always go to the studio to just sit on the side and watch as he records, but I've noticed that he's started to become a bit different ever since the start of the podcast. On a podcast a few weeks ago, the topic was 2016 movies, as my boyfriend and his co-host revisited some of their favorites and least favorite films of 2016. One co-host brought up Arrival as their favorite film of 2016, and while he was talking, my boyfriend loudly says, "Yawn," and he explains that he thought Arrival was boring. My boyfriend then goes into this giant rant about how he hated Arrival, calling it one of the most overrated movies of all time. He says that he looks down on people who like the movie because he claims that they think they're smart, and he says that he's proud of himself for seeing past that movie and its faux attempts at intelligence. And whenever someone would try to change the subject, he'd just interrupt them and go right back to talking about how much he hates Arrival. Then just a few days ago, he was recording another show and the topic was MCU movies. My boyfriend brought up that he thinks Age of Ultron is a hidden gem and massively overlooked masterpiece. One of his co-hosts scoffed when he said those things, and that set my boyfriend off. He started going off on the co-host for his taste in movies and started saying things like, "Just because I have a better understanding of the art of filmmaking, it doesn't mean you have to be jealous of me." That was actually enough for the co-host to just walk out in the middle of the show, and my boyfriend said, "That's fine. I only want to talk to true auteurs of film on this show." And just yesterday, I asked him if we could see Shazam together, but he simply responded with, "I deserve better than those DC movies." I confronted him and told him that he needs to stop acting like he's smarter than everyone over his taste in film. And he said, "Truth hurts, doesn't it?" And it's like this a lot. Whenever I'm watching a movie he doesn't like, he'll just scoff and say, "Typical." I'm thinking of breaking up with him, but I also feel weird about dumping him over having differing views on film. What do you think? Not the jerk. I don't think you're breaking up over your differing views on film, but rather his crappy attitude. Last night was another podcast between my boyfriend and his remaining co-host. Before every actual recording of a show, they always get together in another room to briefly go over what they're going to discuss on the show, and the topic this time was Star Wars. They were going to talk about the new trailer for Episode 9, as well as rank their favorite and least favorite Star Wars films. During the pre-show meeting, I was thinking about how I was most likely going to break up with him after the show had been recorded, but another opportunity presented itself. During the meeting, my boyfriend and his co-host were talking about the Star Wars movies, and my boyfriend brought up that his favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith, and his least favorite is A New Hope. He said that Revenge of the Sith is the most epic and action-packed, whereas the original movie is too dated. His co-host disagreed, and they started talking about their opinions, which led to them talking about The Last Jedi. But then my boyfriend turns that conversation into one about another highly divisive 2017 film, Mother, starring Jennifer Lawrence. My boyfriend hailed it as one of the top 5 films of all time, and the most artistic film he's ever seen. His co-host wanted to get back on track to Star Wars, but my boyfriend kept wanting to talk about Mother. The co-host responded with, "Mother is an edgy high schooler's version of artistic." And that was enough for my boyfriend to go red in the face and say, "Well, at least I try to have actual taste, unlike you." The co-host simply said, "I'm done," and got up and walked out of the room. My boyfriend just stood there. Then he turned on me. He said to me, "What the heck are you looking at?" I just stood up and told him that we're also done as a couple. I explained that I can't stand his crappy way of talking to people and constantly acting like he's so much better than everyone. He starts telling me that he needs me, and he was planning on asking me to join the podcast. He dodged a bullet there. But I just told him no, and I walked out of the room. While I was leaving the building and getting an Uber, my boyfriend sticks his head out of the front door and screams, "You jerk!" I just ignored him, went home, and now here I am. Your boyfriend doesn't even sound like he likes movies. He just likes using movies to try and look superior to others, unsuccessfully at that, since he doesn't know how to disagree without coming across like a loudmouthed jerk. Movies, and art in general, should be about conversation and community, not one-upmanship. I hooked up with my neighbor. Now he won't stop stalking me. So I made a huge mistake recently that I really regret. I, 22 female, ended up hooking up with my neighbor, who's 30 male. We live in the same building, and I came home from a night out about 2 weeks ago, and I met him in the hallway. We got talking, and he invited me back to his place. We had a drink, one thing led to another, and it just happened. I have to admit, it was pretty awkward and bad. I'm cringing as I write this. But as we were doing this, he told me that he loved me. We had spoken about twice before this night. So I got my first impression, maybe he was a bit strange. I was really embarrassed by the whole thing, thought he would be too, and not very maturely decided to just avoid him. I thought he would get the hint that it was just a drunk one-time thing and I wasn't interested. But I kept seeing him all the time. I think he must have worked out what time I leave and get back from work because I started bumping into him way more than I used to. I kept the conversation short and acted uninterested because I thought he would get the hint and back off a little. I guess I was just avoiding that awkward conversation, telling him I wasn't interested, but in no way was I encouraging him. He persisted, and then a few days ago he added me on Facebook, which I ignored. The next time I saw him, he asked me why I hadn't accepted his friend request. So I decided to be a bit more assertive and said something like, The other night was fun, but I'm really not interested in anything. He was quite upbeat and replied, Okay, that's cool, but can we still be friends? So I thought maybe I had been a bit immature towards him, and now that I've told him my intentions, we could be friends. I still think he's being a bit overly friendly with me. I'm sure he's waiting to bump into me again because I see him like all the time. He also is not shy about asking personal questions, like about ex-boyfriends and stuff. I get that some people are more open about some things, but I find it a little weird. On Facebook, he has liked so many of my pictures. I know we all stalk people on Facebook, but he's very obvious about it. He has also messaged a couple of times asking me to hang out. My question is his behavior a bit weird, or am I just being overdramatic? I'm happy to be his friend, but I feel like he's being a bit over the top. I don't want to act like a jerk towards him, but I don't know how to really tell him to tone it down without coming across as one. He's someone I will probably keep seeing, so I feel I have to be nice to him, but he's really weirding me out. Dude, you should not have brushed off his "I love you" comment. I only brushed it off because I thought it was a silly drunk comment, and I didn't want to make the whole thing even more awkward by mentioning it. Maybe I have been oblivious, but I just didn't think anyone would say that when they were hooking up with someone they didn't really know. Hindsight is a great thing, but I've deleted him on Facebook for now, and I hope it will all just subside. I've told a couple of friends about it anyways, so if things get worse, they know. But honestly, I don't think he's that crazy. You really do not have to be his friend. I really was happy to be his friend, but I found him a bit overwhelming because I felt like I couldn't leave my home without having to see him and talk to him, and his presence on Facebook was pretty annoying. I do agree though, I don't have to be his friend, and I quite like the way you worded it, how to break it off. So thanks. Update, 4 days later. The first thing I did was delete and block him from Facebook, but that's the easy bit because I was still going to have to talk to him in person. I, coincidentally, ran into him on Monday. The first thing he said to me was, "Have you deleted your Facebook or something? Because I can't find you anymore." So I went for it and gave a long speech about how he's a nice guy and I thought we could be friends, but I feel like I'm leading him on by hanging out together as I'm really not interested. He replied that he really does just want to be friends and that it would be more awkward now if we're not. I just said something like, "I don't want to give you the wrong impression, so I think it's best for now if we're not." And then I just quickly left before he could say anything else. I felt like a bit of a jerk saying it, but I guess I had to tell him, and I'm glad I did because he was overwhelming me slightly. So far it's worked, and I haven't actually seen him since then, but it has only been like 2 days. However, last night I got a rambling long letter through my door. It came quite late, so I'm almost hoping he was drunk or something when he delivered it, because I think it's kind of weird and also vaguely insulting. I think I'll just type it out as it's difficult to explain the tone of the letter. So here it is. Dear OP, you didn't give me much of a chance the other night, and there is more I wanted to say, though this might actually be an easier way for me to explain my thoughts and feelings. I know we had only talked a few times before our tryst, but I felt like there was an obvious connection between us. I'm sure you must have felt it too, or I don't think you would have come home with me that night. I'm not the type of guy to hook up with random people I don't really know well, but I was extremely attracted to you, and when it appeared you reciprocated my feelings, I couldn't help myself. When you told me you weren't interested in anything romantic, I understood, even if it was not what I wanted to hear. I don't know anything about your personal life, part of the reason why I'm not usually interested in hooking up with random people, and so of course I realize why you might not be interested in me. However, I think it is strange you don't at least want to be friends. We shared something very special with each other, and you can't pretend it never happened. It therefore seems only logical that we become friends. It only makes it more awkward if we aren't. I just want to say if you feel embarrassed or worried that I think of you as crappy, don't be. I don't judge you. That would be a terrible double standard, though be careful because some men may see your behavior as crappy, especially if you refuse to talk to them after. Just like when a guy doesn't call a girl after they hook up, he's seen as a jerk. Really, the point of me saying all this is just to repeat that I understand you are not interested in a relationship with me, and I respect that. However, I'm just going to say it. I really like you. You're a fun, smart, and beautiful girl, and I would love to get to know you more. I don't think you can deny that we got along very well before that night, and I don't think what happened should change anything. Don't think you're leading me on. I'm a grown guy, and I know that no means no and can handle just being friends with you. But I respect what you said to me, even if it hurt a little, and will keep my distance from you from now on. If you change your mind, and if you ever want to talk to me or if you need anything, you know where I live, and I will always welcome you. That's what neighbors are for, right? I do feel a bit bad, because he obviously does like me and has put a lot of emotional value on what happened between us, but I just don't feel like I can deal with someone as intense as him. Maybe it's just me, but I do think that his letter has confirmed that he is a bit odd, so I'm glad that I said what I said and I was upfront with him. I think he'll leave me alone now. He has so far, though I hope if we do see each other, we can be polite and it won't be too awkward, but it probably will be. Make sure your friends and family know about him. Thanks. I already have, but hopefully things will go no further. Update 2. I was hoping that there would be no more updates to this because he managed to go for a week without contacting me. I hadn't seen or heard from him for a few days, so I thought things were blowing over and he had gotten over it. Then yesterday afternoon, I was getting some stuff out of my car and I suddenly hear his voice say, "Hey, do you need a hand?" Of course we were going to see each other again at some point, and I thought I was polite with him by just saying, "Hey, no, I'm fine, thanks." I really didn't think this was rude, and I really didn't need any help anyway, but he seemed to get offended by it and started to get mad at me. He said something like, "What's your problem? I'm only trying to help you. All I've ever done is be nice to you, but you're still acting like a jerk." I think he said more, but I was kind of shocked at how he reacted. He stormed off before I could say anything, but I don't even know what I would have said, as I was a bit stunned and also totally embarrassed because there were people around who probably heard it all. I was also a bit upset because I know that he's allowed to feel a bit used or whatever, as he obviously liked me more than I liked him, but I do think this outburst was uncalled for. I've made my feelings clear to him now, and I know the truth hurts sometimes, but I don't think he has to take it out on me like this. This morning I woke up to another letter. This one is quite short, and so I'll just type it out again. "Dear OP, I want to apologize for shouting at you earlier. I let my anger get the better of me, and I'm sorry about that. But I can't help but get frustrated at your behavior. I get that you're not interested in me, and that you don't want to be my friend. Even if I do find it strange, you're aware of my feelings on this, so I won't repeat them. However, when someone is trying to help you, it's good manners to accept it, or at the very least be grateful. Again, I'm sorry, and I realize I need to think about the way I acted, and will try not to do it again. By the way, this is how adults deal with awkward situations. They don't pretend they never happened. Hope you accept my apology and the little bit of advice I gave you." Maybe I should be grateful he apologized, but I almost think this letter is worse because he's not even trying to hide the insults and is totally patronizing. I don't know how to deal with him anymore. He seems to have gotten over his love for me, but now he has some grudge against me. If he really thinks all this about me, I don't even know why he wants to talk to me and be friends. It must have been like a month since we hooked up now, so I don't know why he can't accept it and just move on. I kind of want to talk to him again now, but I get the feeling that's what he wants me to do. Should I just ignore him and hope that he gets bored when he realizes I won't give him any attention? Or should I tell him again, more assertively, that I want him to leave me alone? I'm so stressed about seeing him again though, because I don't know what it's going to be like. Time to move. I'm actually seriously considering this, but I can't really afford to. I'm thinking this would be the easiest thing to do though. My parents aren't really an option, but I'm going to call my brother. For obvious reasons, I haven't told him anything about this, but I'm going to tell him, and I think he would help me out financially. Call the cops. I did think about doing this, but I just don't know what I would say. I hooked up with someone, and now they've sent me a couple letters, even though I don't want him to. I just don't think they will take it seriously. I think I will call them to see what my options are. However, even if I can get a no-contact order or whatever, I don't think I would want to live that close to him and have to see him regularly. Update 3. Hopefully this is the final update. Things have happened quite quickly since my last one. I was still kind of undecided whether I should write to him to tell him to leave me alone, as this would give me proof of things if it went further, or to just ignore him. Anyway, I called my brother, who I didn't initially want to tell about all of this, but I thought I probably should tell someone in my family. He was totally adamant I shouldn't contact him and I should call the cops if he continues, so I took his advice and decided to not communicate with my neighbor. I sort of regret telling my brother now because he really did not help the situation. I had been out on Friday night and stayed over at my friend's house, so I didn't get back until Saturday morning. I came back wearing what I had been out in, So to my neighbor, it probably looked like I had spent the night with a guy, so this may have made him a bit more angry. He was in the hallway when I got back. I'm totally sure he had been waiting for me, and he said to me, "I don't appreciate getting threatening messages from your brother." I honestly had no idea what he was talking about, so that's what I said, and I found out that my brother had sent him some kind of threatening message telling him to leave me alone. He then was saying stuff. "Why can't you tell me this yourself? Why can't you at least talk to me? I just don't understand you." I responded something like, "I'm sorry about the messages. I didn't know he sent them, but I have told you I don't want you to contact me anymore, yet you keep sending me these letters, and I think he's just worried about me." This is when he got pretty angry and was saying stuff like, "What are you worried about?" and how he had just been trying to be nice. Yeah, he actually said that. He pretty much just repeated what he said in the letters, but it was the first real time he actually scared me a little. I didn't really know what to do, but then he started calling me insulting names to my face, and I was like, "Forget this. I'm not listening to you anymore. Leave me alone." And I went straight to my apartment. As I was walking away, he tried to backtrack and apologize, but I didn't want to give him any more attention, so I ignored him. The first thing I did after this was talk to my brother again because I was kind of annoyed at him for getting involved, and I wanted to find out exactly what he said. So he got his Facebook from one of my friends and sent him this message. "You need to leave my sister alone. You're creeping her out. If you don't, there will be consequences." So I guess it does sound a little threatening, but it's not as bad as I thought it might have been. Even though I was worried that my brother's message might have been seen as provocation, I decided that I was going to call the police. I waited until the next day because I was tired and it was a bit late after talking to my brother. I shouldn't have been surprised that I woke up to another letter. I think he loves having the last word. It's not very long, but here it is. "Dear OP, I'm sorry for some of the things I said to you yesterday. I didn't mean them, but the heat of the moment got to me. I did feel threatened by what your brother said to me. All I've tried to do is talk to the person I live next door to after I hooked up with them. You've made it pretty clear you're not interested in me, and I have accepted that. However, I have explained to you multiple times that I find it strange you don't want to talk, so I think you could be more understanding to my feelings instead of just labeling me a creep. I think we need to talk like adults in person, because I feel so frustrated that you don't understand what I've tried to say to you in my letters, and the only way to do it now is face to face. I won't let my anger get the better of me like it has previously, and surely you must see this is a better idea than getting your brother to send me messages." There was no way I was going to talk to him in person again, as the last 2 times we spoke, he just got angry with me and started calling me names. I wanted the whole situation over now, so I called the police. It was the non-emergency thing, and they were actually very helpful. I was prepared for them to not care. Then they asked me to go to the station, and I had to show all of the stuff he sent me, the letters and Facebook messages, etc. They filed a report, and originally they offered to call him, but when I told them I didn't have his number, they said they would go and talk to him. I just want to make this clear for those who responded to me before, saying going to the cops was too far. This isn't a restraining order. He hasn't been charged or anything. All I've done is file a police report, and we have both agreed to not contact each other, and if either one of us contacts each other, then it will go further. I was sort of expecting for him to send another letter after this, but he hasn't. I know it's only been a couple of days, but I do feel better about the situation now. I'm going to stay here for now. I might talk to my landlord, but I don't think he would let me break my lease. If I feel like I don't want to stay, I think my brother would help me out with money. I do feel bad about what happened, and of course, I should never have hooked up with him. The number one lesson I've learned is don't hook up with your neighbor. But if anyone reading this finds themselves in a similar situation, I guess my advice is to trust your instinct and go to the cops because they can be helpful, and it doesn't mean they're going to start arresting people. Anyways, thanks for all the advice. It was appreciated. Final update. What a mess this has all turned into. But I really do think it's over now, so I thought I would do a quick final update. Initially, I was thinking I would just try to stick out living there until my lease ended, but on the encouragement of some of the replies of my last post, I decided to talk to my landlord. He was not really very understanding and was like, "You shouldn't have hooked up with him," which I guess is true. He said there's nothing he can do now, but if I wanted to break the lease, I could, but it would cost me 2 months' rent as a termination fee, and I have to give 60 days notice, though he did say to let him know if anything else happens. So I left it, but I was living in like a constant anxiety of seeing him, or that he would just do something else. Then I talked to my brother again, and he told me that my neighbor had been messaging him saying things like, "How does it feel to know your sister's a jerk?" and other similar things. I wasn't really sure if I could go to the police again with this because he wasn't directly contacting me, but I realized I didn't want to stay anymore. My brother agreed to help me come up with the money, so I thought that would be that and I could get away. Then maybe a couple of days later, I ran into my neighbor. It probably was just a coincidence. It was bound to happen at some point. The weird thing was, he was being super friendly and asked how I was, etc., and didn't mention any of the stuff that had happened. I found it almost creepier than when he was being aggressive, and I told him that he was supposed to be leaving me alone and I wanted him to stop contacting my brother. He said something like, "I thought we had moved past all that." This is when I seriously began to think there's something really wrong with him, and I just told him again to leave me alone. Then, surprise, he sent me another letter. I can't find it right now, but it basically said, "There was no need to contact the police before, and I hope you aren't thinking about doing it again." But the tone of it was kind of threatening. I went to the police again, and things got a little more serious this time. I got a temporary injunction against him, then there was a hearing, and I got a final injunction, restraining order. Because of this, I was able to break my lease without a termination fee, with only a 30 days notice. I stayed with a friend for a couple of weeks, but this week I've moved into a new place, and I finally feel like I can move on from all of this. Thanks for the advice. It surely gave me the confidence to go to the cops. My wife threatens to divorce me every time we argue. My wife and I are in our late 30s. We're the parents of 2 boys. For the longest time, my wife has chronically been unable to keep a schedule. I work 50 hours a week, come home, and despite my back being in agony on most days, I cook dinner 4 to 5 times a week. I'll generally do at least half the dishes. I take care of bath time. My wife, a stay-at-home mom, does the other household tasks. The only things that I generally avoid are those that involve leaning down to the floor. Picking up toys, for example, is hard for me. In addition, after work, I want to spend some time lying down flat when possible. It helps alleviate my back pain. The day before yesterday, I got home after working for 10 hours and cooked dinner for everybody. It was a nutritious meal using fresh vegetables. Our sons loved it and both asked for more. I then threw the first load of dishes into the dishwasher, ran it, and went to my room to lie down. 20 minutes later, I came out to check on things. My wife was still slowly eating, staring at her phone. I went back. Another 30 minutes later, I came out. Same situation, I went back. 30 minutes later, I came out. Same situation. Wife is still glued to her phone, slowly chewing every bite. I kind of lie down on the sofa, as my back is still in excruciating pain, watching my older boy play with his Legos while my younger one chewed on the Legos. Another 20 minutes pass, and it's 8:15, way past bath time. You see, dinner was done early. The boys were fed early. Dishes were mostly done early. My wife was holding up the show, chewing slowly, doom scrolling through Instagram. She suddenly notices the time, and like every single solitary day, panics and says, "It's 8:15. Yes, 8:15 comes at the same time every day. She proceeds to throw an enormous tantrum about me lying down, complains that I never do anything around the house. I gently suggest she put down her phone and actually do something productive. Then she drops a bomb on the conversation.
How about I start the divorce proceedings?
When she doesn't get her way, she frequently does this. She starts bringing up perceived slights and arguments from months or years ago at the same time. Yesterday I got home, I cooked dinner as usual. This time when my wife walked in, I told her to buzz off. I said she could go to her room and mess around on her phone. I don't care. She did so, and something magical happened. Instead of waiting for her to do her fair share, and instead of expecting her to pitch in properly, I did everything myself. With the goal of 9 bedtime, I was done with literally everything, including cooking, cleaning the kitchen, washing the dishes, bath time, brushing their teeth, reading them a bedtime story, and getting them into their PJs by 8. Put my youngest to bed at that time, and my older one went to sleep at 8:30. I just couldn't believe how easy everything was without her. Without her 2-hour dinner marathons holding everyone up. It was the easiest night I've probably ever had as a father. Honestly, I don't know what to do. My wife is completely closed to any suggestions because in her mind, she's the perfect mother, and any suggestion is a personal slight. I'm so tired of having the finger pointed at me anytime something goes wrong. I'm not a single parent to 2 kids, not even 3. I'm a single parent to 2 boys and a constantly angry parasite. Okay, here's your script. Next time she says, "How about I start the divorce proceedings?" You should tell her, don't worry, I realized it would be a lot faster if I took care of that myself too. I can say this from experience. There's nothing less attractive than a partner that's permanently hooked to their phone screen. I had an ex like that, and it went from miserable to some kind of state beyond that, which doesn't even have a term in English. Eventually, she started cheating on me, and her excuse for being gone all night was, my phone died. I was thinking, I've never ever seen you peel away from your phone. If it died, you'd be in a state of panic that I've never seen before. Anyway, long story short, not worth it. Unfortunately, this happens in many marriages. When you start to realize how much easier life would be without them, you know it's the end. I feel that you're done. That this isn't okay for you or your kids to go through every night. It's not okay for someone to threaten divorce and weaponize it every time they're called out. I have doom scrolled for hours, realized I had done the same thing and not put the kids to bed. But you know what? You either apologize to your partner and laugh about it, but the next day you are aware and you don't do it again. My husband and I have nights where we are both exhausted and the kids go to bed a little late because we've both been slower. That's life. But hiding in your phone for hours every night, that's not healthy for anyone. As someone who chose to end a long-term relationship about a year ago, trust me, once the dead weight is gone, you're so much more free to be happy. A relationship is a partnership. We both need to pull our weight. And if you're with someone who is lazy, doesn't want to help at all, gets mad when you ask them to, etc., life improves so much once they're out of your life. We all deserve someone who wants to make our life better, not someone who wants to leech off of us like an emotional vampire. Am I the jerk for losing it on my husband on the day of his family reunion? I'm a 35-year-old female married to a 38-year-old man. We've been together for 10 years and we have 2 kids who are 9 and 5. My husband works very hard. He has multiple jobs he works throughout the week. Recently, we had a discussion about taking some time off and spending some time together. It's difficult because of things in his past. He's accumulated a lot of debt, which is why he works so much. I work 60+ hours a week and take care of the household and childcare things while much of his income goes to paying his debts. I keep up with the household, I do the housework and lawn work, repairs, etc., and he contributes where he can. Within this year, he has taken time off for family and coworker events. He has scheduled time to take trips with his friends, and when he does so, I'm the designated babysitter. Many days after he gets home, he's responsible for his parents. He takes them grocery shopping, fixes things at their household, and does some of their housework. I forgot to mention, he is one of 5, and all 4 siblings live close to his parental home. His parents assist in childcare for his siblings, but not for ours. I've told him my frustrations of being consistently placed on the back burner. The other day, I lost it. I found out he invited his family to our house for a family reunion last week. I thought he took time off of work and he didn't. The house was a mess and most of the mess was his. I was expected to clean the house, get the groceries, run the kids to their weekend events, start cooking and get their reunion set up as he set the time for 4 p.m., the time he gets off work. The kids are helping and doing their chores and cleaning their rooms. I get the house clean and by the time his family started pouring in, I was stewing as he was at work. He asked me why there weren't any clean towels as he was going to take a shower, and I freaked out in front of his whole family. I ran down the list of how I'm always on the back burner for these people, how I am one person and I'm the one contributing to the household while he works just to pay off his debts, how I have no security or support in this relationship, and that he is like having another kid, and that all I feel like I'm worth is an occasional hookup whenever he's in the mood. I let it all out. I ended with, I'm done. I packed a bag and I took off. I'm sat in a parking lot hysterical. And no, the kids weren't present, they were outside playing. He's a good father to the kids, but as a husband, I feel like I'm better off by myself. I have so much resentment towards him. And no, he hasn't called. He texted me loud and clear, which made me even more angry because this is exactly how he deals with everything. I'm now feeling like a jerk for going off and saying all I did, especially in front of his family. Am I the jerk? Update. After the loud and clear text, I was bombarded with phone calls and texts from his family. I sent a message to my husband to give me some space, and if he had any care for me and this relationship, to call off the dogs. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb with the exception of my kid's iPad. I had called my mother, sent her some money, and she went to go pick them up and stay with her. Once they were there, I FaceTimed them and told them I was working. I'm not working. I had a secret rainy day fund and splurged on a nice hotel and spa day, had a few drinks, cried my eyes out some more, and just spent the day unplugged and journaled all my feelings. After that, I mustered up the courage to open up Reddit and read my fate. And wow, I was surprised. I was fully expecting a bunch of "you're the jerk" comments. To clear up a few things, I shamefully do not know the lengths of his debts. Much of it was from his parents putting bills in his name. Others are just mismanagement of money, credit cards, etc. I took over the finances after I found a letter in the mail saying that we were going to lose the house. I was contributing to the household bills at the time, and he was doing the finances. I trusted things were going well. This was after marriage and after kids. We went to counseling because of it, and he said he was ashamed and afraid to tell me the truth. I took over about 3 years ago, and I told him to focus on clearing his debt and I'd hold the household down while he did. I did not expect it to take this long, and with inflation, everything has just become more expensive and that much more hard for me. I was supposed to go back to school, and that was put on hold so I could catch up on what we were behind, hence the working 60+ hours. I'm a nurse, and I work 12-hour shifts and capitalize on overtime where I can. I agree with the comments saying that I'm burnt out. I realized this today. I realized at work or at home, I'm constantly in critical thinking caregiver mode. My job is to create and problem solve for everyone but myself. To clear up the comment of his family doesn't watch our kids, it's because they did so one time and they threw it in our faces and I said never again. I see how they use him. I've said something before and he returns with, "One day they won't be here and I'll wish I could have done more." I told him that's fine, but you have siblings that are equally responsible, some that don't have spouses or kids that can contribute. As far as the house and things go, he does really help when he can. Don't jump on me, I just want to be truthful. I think it came across that he comes home and does nothing. He just works up to 16 hours, 7 days a week, so a lot of times it's me doing the majority of it. As far as the trips go, yeah, that's a sore spot. He tells me about them, he takes the day off, it upsets me. I have to beg for time, and if and when we do get it, we end up in a fight, or I have to plan everything, or we can't get sitters and stay home and he sleeps all day. And to be honest, I'm so full of resentment that it's almost too little too late. Like when I'm around him, I'm just so mad. He says I always have an attitude and that he's trying, but nothing is ever good enough. So I just stopped and accepted my fate, hence the blow-off. I haven't spoken to him yet, besides telling him to call off his family. He was part of the do not disturb on my phone. I'm enjoying the peace. I'm enjoying being by myself and just being present and aware of my feelings, knowing my kids are safe and I can truly take some time for myself, and my mental health right now is everything. Update. I called my husband this morning. I could tell by his voice he didn't get sleep last night, and he confirmed that he did not. He told me after the blow-up, he asked everyone to leave. He was surprised to see my mother as I sent her to pick up the kids. He said that's when it really became real. We had a long conversation. I did apologize for exploding and doing so when I did, and not communicating better. He said he understands why I felt like I couldn't and was actually glad it happened the way it did. His family finally got to see how much they affected his home. According to him, after I left, he laid into them and told them that he can no longer be the only one to help his family out and that a lot of the mess he's in is their fault. He said that after that blow-up, he told his siblings they need to step up and help with his parents. His parents were obviously upset. I couldn't care less, to be honest. They couldn't believe that they are such a burden because they ask for a little help from time to time. I just rolled my eyes in disgust as he was talking. My new space, along with my feelings of hurt and anger, just let me speak all my truths. I had nothing left to give or lose, so I told him how I felt about everything. He sat in silence for a while, then finally broke down and said he feels like a failure. He's ashamed of the debt and how much he's let us down. He said he was exhausted and has been feeling depressed because he couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel and feels as though he's ruined our future. That he goes out with his friends to feel normal and himself because all he does is work. That he does this because of the black cloud that's been hanging over him. I wasn't my best self in this moment and told him to save me the pity. It's pathetic. That he got himself into this mess and I'm digging him out. I'm depressed too. There's a ton of crap I want to do that I can't do because I'm financially unable to. I went off how over the past 3 years, his income has gone solely to debt repayment, yet there's no end in sight because I haven't even seen the so-called debt. I've given him my all and as much support as I could gather, but I'm angry. This isn't the life I pictured or set myself up for either. It's not the life my kids deserve. I've missed out on so much because I'm working or I'm cleaning or I'm just so tired I can't even open my eyes. I told him he has no one to blame but himself. I think my disdain was concerning. He said he will show and prove that he will print out his credit report and list out all the debt he has, along with all his pay stubs and bank records and the receipts of what's paid off and whatever else I want as far as finances are concerned. He promised my hard work was not in vain and that he's almost debt-free. Come to find out, his parents opened credit cards and bills in his name when he was younger and accrued close to $100,000 of debt in his name, not including interest. They trashed his credit, and that's why it's taken so long. According to him, he's been fighting with the collection companies to settle, trying to consolidate or get a lower interest, as it was multiple companies and debts. What I didn't know is some were so bad, his wages were being garnished. He was in tears and said he didn't know how to tell me, that he didn't even know the extent of what they did. He was basically working all these hours with nothing to take home to us and accruing more debt just to survive. I stayed silent. My blood was boiling. He didn't even realize he just helped me make my decision. He jokingly said my outburst took care of the family situation, and that's why he texted me loud and clear, meaning he and they got the message. I told him I didn't find it funny. It's a shame that it took an outburst from me for everyone to hear what I've been saying all along, that he's an idiot for not filing charges on his parents and for just letting them ruin our lives like this. I told him he's spineless and I feel so stupid. He said he didn't call me because he knew how mad I was and was scared he would say the wrong thing and say things just like that. I thanked him for the honesty and the conversation and told him I'm so broken, angry, and hurt right now that I can't even pick up my pieces, let alone his. Right now I need to clear my head. He said he's willing to do whatever it takes to turn this around. He even suggested marriage counseling. He told me he used his paid time off and took the rest of the week off to work on this. I lost it and cried uncontrollably. If it was that easy to take time off, why now and not then? I asked him why didn't I matter before we got here? Why now? I told him he needs the time off to find counseling, both personal and legal, that I won't be coming home. He asked me if I was serious. He begged me to rethink my decision. He said all the things I've been wanting to hear. He asked me where I was going to go and what about the kids and the house and the bills, that I couldn't tear the kids away from the only home they know. I simply replied, I know this is what needs to be done, and I've already set the ball in motion. He hung up on me. I cried, then went to go get the kids. We're going to have a wonderful week in a somewhat fancy hotel and swim in the pool and order room service and make some memories. I took some of the money I had saved in my rainy day fund and extended my hotel stay to include me and the kids. I have an awful lot to catch up on with them. The look on their faces when I said, no, mommy doesn't have to work tonight was priceless. I also have an appointment with legal consultants tomorrow. Hopefully I can talk to a lawyer and figure out what's next. Am I the jerk for telling my son I have no plans to motivate or support him after he's an adult? My oldest kid is a good kid, but he's kind of lazy. His mom has always protected him, and she has her reasons. 2 years after we met, fell in love, got married, and had a kid. Unfortunately for me, our son's birth was a catalyst for a regression for her. He could do no wrong. If I tried to punish or even just correct him, she would get upset and start crying or fight with me. If he found something difficult and I wanted him to work through it or try harder, she would step in and tell me to back off or actually just do it for him. This led to our divorce as I wanted to be a father and not a spectator. She fought so I wouldn't get custody. I ended up with visitation. My kid wouldn't do anything though. He wouldn't bring his homework over and all he wanted to do was play video games. If I didn't let him, he had tantrums. It was exhausting, and she would always back him up. It was always my fault. I remarried to my current wife, Diane. We have 2 kids and are doing our best to raise them right. My son stopped coming over when he was 14. I still invite him, but he rarely responds. My child support has just stopped. His mom has been giving it to him to do whatever he wanted for the last 3 years. Not my problem. He called me to see if I could help him with money. I asked what for. He said that his mom can't give him the allowance that he's used to. I asked if he was going to be attending some sort of post-secondary school, and he said no. I told him to get a job. His mom lost her mind. She said she will take me back to court so her poor baby can live his life his way. I wished for the odds to be ever in her favor and hung up. Now that he's an adult, I never have to talk to her again. It's too bad because I loved her very much, but not anymore. My son asked me to help him find a job. I said I would. I told him to send me his resume. I've been waiting 3 weeks for it. He called me yesterday to see if I had made any progress on finding him a job. I said he never sent me his resume. He got upset that I hadn't reminded him. It was one thing after another. I told him that I was not going to motivate him to do anything, that I would be here if he needed help, but that it would never be money again. I let him come over and I helped him with the resume. I also talked to him about the trades or a community college. He's beginning to understand how difficult his future will be now that his mom can't do everything for him. He's upset with his mother now because he doesn't have life skills. She's mad at me for showing him the truth. Not the jerk. At least it seems he's starting to realize life is for him to manage. I know people who are almost 40 and still count on their mom to solve their problems. Not the jerk. Sounds like mom wanted a lifetime of codependency. Son is breaking free. Will be hard for him, but money is not the only issue, as I'm sure you know. I hope he's in therapy to work on the mental game. In therapy, I learned about a concept called the glass wall. Basically, you're in a glass box. You can see everyone around you, but you can't get out. You can make suggestions or tell people what to do, but since you can't get out, you can't make them do anything. The only person you can control is yourself. I feel like you understand the glass wall. You're trying to help him in the ways that make sense to you. In the past, you tried to guide him, but ultimately he made his own choices. Now he has to deal with them. In my mind, you're not the jerk. Not at all. Not the jerk. I do feel bad for your son, though. This is pretty much what happened to me. I learned in therapy that I shouldn't always see myself as the victim. But my mom raised me to be so weak and non-aggressive. She didn't let me spend time with my dad, even though I really looked up to him. He had visitation, which was always fun, but my mom made it really hard for us to spend time together and was always trying to turn me against him. Now I'm 31 and still live with her. She doesn't let me do much on my own. My half-siblings who got to grow up with my dad, they're in their early 20s and leagues ahead of where I am, have their own place, friends, cars. I know this might make me sound like a horrible person, but I do believe that my life would have turned out different if I had my dad in my life the way I wished he was. My mom did everything she could to keep me from him, and all because he divorced her after he caught her cheating. Am I the jerk for not postponing our wedding to accommodate my sister-in-law? My fiance, male 28, and I, 28 female, are set to be married in December. We got engaged in June of last year and decided on the wedding date a year and a half in advance for everyone's convenience. We've been dating for 10 years, and we've been saving up for the wedding for 5 years to be able to afford an extravagant wedding in a palace in India, and we finally made those arrangements. My husband's sister has always been a golden child. She always got what she asked for, as opposed to my husband, who they treat like a cash cow. Every time his mother needs something expensive, he's the first call she makes. I try not getting between them, but she's never shown any interest in his life. For the wedding, we sent out save the dates in December of last year for people to plan their holidays and plans way in advance. My sister-in-law got married 3 years back. It was a nice wedding, but not as fancy as ours. When she knew about the plans, she started finding problems in everything, to a point where my husband asked her to stop interfering. Last week, we got an excited call from her to tell us that she was pregnant and is expecting her baby in December. Both of us were shocked, but we were happy for her and congratulated her. She then proceeded to say,
"So, you can just come here to get married at the city hall. I would need help with the baby."
I was baffled and told her the wedding is still on, and having her baby does not change our wedding plans. She threw a fit when I said that and hung up. Later that day, his mom called and told us to postpone the wedding 6 months so his sister could attend it, and if we don't, then she wouldn't attend either, and that her daughter's pregnancy is a bigger event than our stupid marriage. My husband was upset and chose to not respond, but I lost it. I told her that if my sister-in-law prioritized her pregnancy over our marriage, which she knew about for a year and a half, we're not obligated to prioritize her pregnancy over our happiness. My husband is speechless and we don't know what to do. Would I be the jerk for not postponing the wedding? Not the jerk. The cynic in me thinks it's a ploy by your sister-in-law to see how far you'll jump if she says higher. I hope I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if something goes sideways with the pregnancy if you change your wedding date. Either way, you don't need to rearrange your wedding because your sister-in-law can't make it. And the drama won't stop there either. Your mother-in-law will need to go where she is, so she can be there for your sister-in-law in her time of need. Carry on with your plans and don't give in to their unreasonable requests and demands. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law she should be ashamed of herself and learn to be a mature adult? My brother had 2 kids with his ex by the time he was 21. He stuck around for a couple of years, but when they broke up, he left the kids too. He paid no child support, made no effort to keep in touch with the kids, did not check if they were okay, nothing. The rest of my family let the relationship drop too, but I, 38 male, was the exception. I stayed part of my niece and nephew's lives. I still have a good relationship with them today, and they're close to my kids. 5 years ago, my brother got married, and now he's expecting baby number 3 with his wife. After settling into family life, he started to think more about his oldest 2, and he made the decision to reach out to them. He was met with silence initially, and then after speaking to his ex, he got a brief message from his kids that they were still mad and hurt that he left. They had contact for about a month, and it was sporadic. He asked if they could meet in person, and the kids said no, but they said they would do a video call with him one time, and that was it. This call happened 2.5 months into their reconciliation. At some point during this, he mentioned wanting them to meet his wife and other kids. They told him that was not going to happen, and they didn't want to reconcile with him. My brother was surprised. He had thought them opening up to him about being angry and hurt was a sign that they're willing to work through that. They told him it would be one thing if he hadn't settled down and started a family all over again, but the fact he did that and then reached out to them was too much for them, and they want nothing to do with the family he created now. This led to a back and forth where he said they have younger siblings, and they told him very clearly they will never acknowledge or accept them as siblings, and they will never accept him as their dad, and he needs to move on. I spoke to my niece and nephew after the call. They reached out to me, and they said it was good to close that door and to have the decision be their own. They felt like they got closure. My brother wasn't prepared for the outcome, and his wife is furious that my niece and nephew rejected them for existing. She started bad-mouthing the kids at my parents' house in front of all of us. My brother told her to stop, but she told him they should be ashamed of themselves for reacting like spoiled brats who don't get their way and punishing her family when they're supposed to be grown adults now. I told sister-in-law she should be ashamed of herself for talking about them like that. I told her she should learn to be a mature adult and accept that his actions had consequences, and this is one of them. Cue to her being offended and saying I have no right to speak to her that way, and some of my family telling me I should have said nothing. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She needs to understand what her husband did was not right, and he doesn't deserve forgiveness. She is owed absolutely nothing, and you were right to shut her down. Her and her kids are nothing to them, and she has no right to expect that they want to embrace any of them. Good for you, not sitting by and letting her have a tantrum about a situation that doesn't revolve around sister-in-law. Am I the jerk for feeding my kids stale food and calling my wife lazy? I, 37 male, and my wife, 36 female, have 2 kids who are 5 and 7. My wife is pregnant with our 3rd right now. She's 20 weeks pregnant. So my daughters have never been picky about their food since I used to cook all meals and never introduced them to junk food. However, about 2 months back, I was assigned to a new project at work and started working long hours, 70 hours a week, so I've been unable to cook as often now. I wanted to hire a cook because my wife was having severe pregnancy symptoms, but my wife said she wanted to try cooking for our kids, and she also didn't like the idea of a stranger in our house. I agreed to her idea since she suggested it herself. For the first month or so, she cooked pretty diligently for the kids and both of us as well. However, after that, she reduced the quality of the meals. What I mean is, she started making easy-to-cook foods for the kids. She also started giving them junk foods as snacks so that they wouldn't be hungry for real meals. I chalked it up to her pregnancy nausea for the first few weeks, but last week, when I prepared an elaborate meal for the family on Sunday, the kids refused to even touch the food because they wanted the usual buttered noodles. So I told my wife that I'd be cooking all the meals from now onwards because the kids are getting spoiled from eating junk food all the time. She got mad at me and said she's trying her hardest and I should be more appreciative. I told her no one forced her to cook, and I had already suggested hiring a cook, but she was the one who refused. She said that I don't understand her discomfort with having a cook and that hiring one was out of the question. She also told me that I can cook all the meals if I think it's so easy to feed the kids healthy food. I told her that I would do just that. That very night, I stayed up, making different kinds of healthy food options for the week. Fruit salad, chicken stir-fry, pasta sauce, with veggies, mushrooms, and tomatoes, then blended it all. Cauliflower soup and banana bread. I froze everything so they could be reheated during the week. I've been just reheating food throughout the week and giving it to the kids. Since they want only noodles, I add the sauce and chicken stir-fry to the noodles along with grated cheese. They just eat it without detecting any veggies in it. For their school lunches, I pack ham and cheese or tuna or chicken sandwiches the night before, along with fruit salad and chocolate milk. They get a slice of banana bread for after-school snack, sandwiches and soup for dinner for me and my wife. My wife told me the food tastes good, but it's stale food, so she doesn't think it's better than what she used to cook for the family. I told her at least I was putting effort into the meals, unlike her, who was using the kids' picky behavior as an excuse to be lazy. She got mad at me and said that she wasn't being lazy and that the kids really were picky. Now she's not speaking to me for the past 2 days. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk for what you're feeding your kids. Those seem like good options, but you are the jerk for what you said to your wife. She's clearly not used to cooking like you. I'm guessing there's a reason you've been doing the cooking until now, and being pregnant while caring for 2 kids can be exhausting. Maybe instead of fighting about who's doing the cooking right, you could make it a team effort. Some of your early prepared meals mixed in with some healthy options made by her. That might make her feel less overwhelmed about taking over a chore she isn't used to, and she'll be less likely to burnt out and resort to food that isn't healthy. Make a meal plan together even. Always remember, you're a team. You win or lose together. Neither of you can win alone. Not the jerk, and here's why. I don't care that she's pregnant. You offered her many reasonable solutions. She insisted on being the one to cook and mess up your kids' eating habits and turn them into picky eaters by being lazy. Let's be honest, it doesn't matter why. Yes, she is pregnant and caring for 2 other kids, but if she couldn't continue to provide healthy meals, then she should have communicated that and asked for help, and you 2 could have figured out a solution together. Then, once you realized that she wasn't handling it and she was not feeding your kids properly, then you took that pressure off of her and took on the task she clearly could not handle. Again, doesn't matter that she's pregnant or why she can't handle it. She clearly can't handle it. You didn't demand she work harder or fix it herself. You solved the issue and took on the task yourself. Furthermore, you're not feeding them stale food, and it's not the same as her crappy junk unbalanced food. What you are doing is meal planning and meal prep, and it's absolutely appropriate and healthy, and even recommended. The fact that she wants to belittle your effort to help her and feed them healthier meals and take the pressure off her makes her a huge jerk. She should be grateful. Finally, she wants to argue that the kids are picky eaters. 1. They weren't picky until she made them picky by feeding them garbage. 2. They clearly are not that picky because they're eating what you're making. Although calling her lazy probably didn't help your situation and probably makes you a jerk in some ways, we all can't be perfect in our communications, and maybe you need to work on that a little. Karen wants me to get off a mobility scooter. I want to start this by saying that this happened over a year ago, but I still think about it all the time, and recently I retold it to my mom. So at the time I was 18, and I had just had surgery to remove my gallbladder. Since I was fresh off the operating table, I couldn't walk on my own yet, and I needed to use a cane. While in stores that had them, I used the mobility scooters. You know, because that's what they're there for. Me and my husband, we'll call him H, were in Walmart one day, and I couldn't keep walking with the cane. It was hurting too much, so I told H that I needed to grab a scooter. We make our way through the store with little to no problem, but I noticed a lady, we'll call her Karen, had been following us. At one point, I stood up to look at some chips we were thinking about grabbing when the lady came around the corner and started going off on me. This is paraphrased because I can't remember her exact words. Karen:
You're disgusting for using that cart. You don't need it.
Me: Ma'am, if you look in the basket, you'll see that I have a cane with me. I currently need this scooter. Karen:
Oh, please. That's not a real cane. It's a stick.
The cane was my grandmother's, and she had made it from a stick that she loved when it had fallen on a tornado. She used it until the day that she passed, and then she passed it on to me. Me: This is in fact a cane, just not a store-bought one. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to find my husband and give him the chips that I want. I then tried to get back on the scooter, but she blocked my way. Ma'am, I need to sit back down. I'm in a lot of pain and I can't stand on my own for very long.
You're fine. You're young and healthy. You don't need a scooter. You're just too lazy to walk.
Me: No, I just had surgery and I can show you the scars if you want to see, but I need to sit down and go get my husband. Eventually, my husband finds me and tells the Karen to move so I can sit down, explaining that I did in fact just have surgery and I was in fact in excruciating pain. She moved and was a little white in the face, but she left us alone after that. Safe to say, the weirdest Karen encounter I've ever had. I too am disabled and need the mobility scooter for shopping at large stores. I had a lady try to come at me at Costco, went so far as to grab the basket on my scooter. I told her that she needed to leave me alone or I would raise my cane to her. She said it was assault. Her husband came along and dragged her away, yelling at her to stop being a Karen. I had a good day after all. Am I the jerk for going out on a date night with my wife's friend? I went out for dinner with one of my wife's friends last week when my wife was out of town. I wanted some honest opinions on if I did something wrong and how big of a trouble I should be in. So, to give some full context, my wife was away for a week visiting her parents. She has a friend, Amanda, who she has been friends with for many years. Amanda has had a rough patch where she broke up with her boyfriend and also lost her job. My wife has been supportive of her. Last week, Amanda had an interview and asked my wife if she could give her a ride home from the airport. As my wife was out of town and my office is near the airport, my wife asked me if I can give her a ride on my way back from work. I didn't have any plans, so I agreed. Amanda and I are not really friends, and I only interact with her when we meet socially. I told Amanda to message me when her flight gets to the airport and I can go pick her up. I picked her up around 6 p.m. and we were driving home. We were just having small talk about the new company she was interviewing at and her work in general. Amanda told me she does not have any food at home and asked if we can stop at a drive-thru so that she can pick up some food. I was also hungry, and I suggested we can stop by somewhere and have quick dinner before I drop her off at home. She agreed and started searching for places on the way. She punched in the address to a restaurant on the way, and we drove to that place. We did not know this, but this place was a pretty fancy Italian restaurant. She said, "This looks too fancy," and I said, "We're already here, so let's eat." I messaged my wife that we're getting dinner, and she said okay. We had a pretty fun evening and a nice dinner. She had a few drinks, and I was not since I was driving. We generally never talk much, but she opened up to me, and we had a very nice chat. I never knew Amanda and I had so much in common, and we liked the same music and movies. I did not notice, but we were at the restaurant for an hour and a half. Amanda was taking pictures during dinner and also asked the server to take our picture at the end of the meal. I dropped Amanda off at home. She gave me a quick hug and said thanks for such a nice evening. I called my wife, told her I dropped Amanda off and I'm heading home. She seemed busy and I just let her know that I reached home and said goodnight. This is where things got a bit weird. Amanda messaged me around 11 p.m. saying thanks for the ride and she had a good time. She sent me our picture together. I saw the message and just liked it to acknowledge it. Later that night, Amanda shared some of the photos from our dinner on her Instagram, including our photo together, and captioned it as "Dinner with Friend." I'm not friends with Amanda on Instagram, and I didn't see it. The next morning, my wife called me and asked me how my date night with Amanda was. I laughed it off and thought she was teasing me, but my wife sounded really upset and kept on asking me about all the details, like when I got home, which I was happy to provide. That night, my wife called me again and told me that Amanda told her about the night before. The issue was, Amanda made the dinner sound way nicer than it was. She kept on praising me for how much of a gentleman I was and how I treated her better than most of her dates, how I'm a good listener and I paid for the whole thing, etc. I feel Amanda also added fuel to the fire by telling my wife all the wonderful things I did for her during the evening. My wife feels I should have asked her before inviting Amanda to such a fancy place for a romantic dinner. She was also upset that hundreds of people liked Amanda's post on Instagram, and she feels disrespected that her husband is going out on date night with her single friend when she was out of town. She also jokingly asked me how our goodnight kiss was, and I told her it was just a hug. That seemed to make her even angrier. I have not told her about the late night messages from Amanda and me liking the picture with the heart emoji because I'm too scared at this point. I wanted to ask if I was wrong to invite Amanda out for dinner when both of us were starving and it was dinner time. Do you think my wife is wrong in overreacting to all of this? I was just being nice to her friend, who she asked me to drive home. I also communicated with my wife all through the night and she seemed okay with it at the time. She only got offended after she saw Amanda's Instagram post. Should I call Amanda and tell her to talk to my wife and explain it was just a friendly meal and I was not being inappropriate? You're the jerk. Would you be okay if your wife went out on a nice dinner and had drinks with a single male friend of yours, not hers, hugged him, took pictures, all without asking if it bothered you and not telling you what happened, and then you found out from social media? The fact is, casual observers interpret you going on a date with a woman that isn't your wife. Getting drive-through is one thing, this is another. OP. I just went for dinner with her. I was expecting to go to a diner or something, but it was a nice meal anyways. Yes, I understand if my wife would have done all those things, it would have bothered me. However, I was messaging my wife through the night, and she never once raised a flag that she was uncomfortable. I also talked to my wife after I dropped Amanda off. I think her problem started the next morning after she saw the Instagram pics. No jerks here. Sounds like there's a level of naivete around the escalating situation. The early portions of your story are definitely innocent and honestly what a lot of people would do for a close friend of a significant other. But how could you not see this escalated into an awkward situation? Fancy romantic dinner setting, potentially intimate conversations, a bit of PDA towards the end. At no point in the evening did it occur to you that this feels like a date. Probably owe your wife an apology regarding the misunderstanding. OP. I'll be honest here. I was slightly annoyed I had to pick Amanda up at the airport because I had my whole evening planned out. I was going to go home, get drunk, and play Sea of Thieves with my friends. I really did not notice we were in a restaurant for such a long time. The dinner was not romantic at all, but you know how pictures on Instagram can look. In hindsight, I know why my wife is mad at me, and I'm just scared at this point for the fallout. Help! What kind of restaurant was it? It wasn't one of those unlimited breadsticks places. It was more like a fancy steakhouse, but Amanda picked it out. My wife was completely fine with the dinner until she saw the pictures on Instagram. Why did you pay for it? So I paid because I always offer to pay. I'm lucky to live a comfortable life and I hate splitting bills. I also always offer to pay when I go with my friends too. Update. I've been getting the cold treatment from my wife ever since this incident. A lot of the comments made me believe that I did something horrible. However, I knew in my heart that I did not have any wrong intentions and decided to just be honest with my wife. She came home yesterday and I went to pick her up at the airport. I went on my charm offensive and got some flowers and chocolates on my way. While my wife was happy to see me after 2 weeks, I could see she was a bit annoyed by me. I asked her if she wants to stop by for dinner at a restaurant and she gave me a look and told me to keep driving and we'll just order takeout. She also asked me to cut the BS and be normal. After we reached home, we settled in and I got dinner ready. I decided to be direct and asked her why the incident is really bothering her. I told her that I know she's not an insecure person and she also knows I would never put myself in an inappropriate position. While I understand why she would be annoyed by the situation, I would not expect her to doubt me. She was the one who trusted me to pick up her friend in the evening from the airport. As it was dinner time and her friend said she was hungry, it would have been rude of me to not offer to get her food. Also, my wife knows that I always offer to pay for dinners, irrespective of if it's my friends or hers. It's just the way that I was brought up, and we have fights during family gatherings on who gets to pay. I asked her what was the thing that was exactly bothering her and why she was okay during the night when I kept her updated about everything, but got upset in the morning. My wife told me that the whole situation smelled funky to her. She told me that she does not doubt me one bit that I had any wrong intentions. However, the optics of it all was really bad for her. She said that she is not upset at me for getting dinner with her friend. She would expect me to do that, and Amanda also appreciates it. She said that the issue started early morning when her mom barged into her room to show her Amanda's post. Her mom thought I was going out with Amanda behind my wife's back. My wife told her that she knew I took her out for dinner and told her about what happened. She then got a lecture from her mom about how naive she was, and this is how affairs start. My wife said that it annoyed her a lot. Her mom also looked up the restaurant and told my wife that it was a very pricey place and was voted best place for romantic dates by some magazine. She said her mom completely freaked out after seeing my picture with Amanda. So my wife looked up our credit card statement and realized I had spent a lot on the meal. She also said that Amanda has a huge social media following on Instagram and posts a lot. I think she's like a fitness influencer or something, but I don't really follow her. Even though most of the pictures in her post were of food, the last photo of me and her looked like a boyfriend reveal as we were sitting next to each other. She told me I won't understand as I'm not on Instagram, but this is how people announce that they're dating someone nowadays. As the day went on, Amanda got more than 1,000 likes on the post, with a lot of people commenting and saying that we look nice. She was annoyed Amanda did not correct any of them. So she called Amanda in the evening to ask her to take the last picture down. However, Amanda kept on praising me and how I was charming and fun. Amanda told her that for all these years, she felt I was snobbish and pretentious. I am a huge introvert, so I come off that way. But she was wrong. My wife said this was annoying because she's never seen me be charming with any of her friends before when she was around. Amanda was talking about all my favorite bands and how we should all go see a concert sometimes. Amanda told us she posted our photo because she's never been treated to such a nice place before and wanted to acknowledge me in the post. My wife never asked her to take down the picture because of that. She then had a lot of questions for me as to when I dropped her off, why I walked her to the apartment building door, and when I got home. I told her I can show you exact times and receipts for everything, but do we really want to be that couple who questions each other about every little detail? She can check when we got the credit card charge, the messages I sent her after dropping Amanda off, and our Ring camera and garage, and come to her own conclusions. She asked me if I thought Amanda was flirting with me during the night, and I told her that was not the case. In fact, Amanda messaged me our photo at night, and I just sent an emoji instead of engaging in a conversation, mostly because I was busy with my video game. That chapter was closed for us, and neither Amanda nor I messaged each other after that. Amanda is my wife's friend, and I do not intend to be close friends with her anyways, as I have my own friends. I also insisted to her that Amanda was not inappropriate in any way during the night and maintained proper boundaries. So this incident should not affect her friendship with Amanda. In fact, if Amanda had any intentions, she knew my wife was out for the rest of the week and would have tried to message me again. But she forgot about the evening, and so should we. Overall, my wife seems to be back to normal after the conversation. My wife is not an insecure person. I could see why she would be annoyed by the situation, but I know in my heart that I will never disrespect our marriage, and I had no reason to be sneaky or lie about the situation to her. I'm glad we talked it through, and I was able to answer all her questions. Thanks again for your suggestions. How much was the dinner? OP. It was around $300 overall with tips and stuff. The food was pretty good though. $300? How many courses did you get? OP. 5, I think. We skipped the dessert course though because it was too much food. His wife is far too insecure. OP treated Amanda just like he treats his friends. If anyone deserves crap, it's Amanda and his wife for bringing up all this drama on him over something that she started in the first place. I don't know. I feel like wife would be less upset if this wasn't out of the norm for OP. I can't imagine he takes everyone he picks up from the airport to $300 romantic Italian restaurants. Oh, give me a break. You don't accidentally end up with a $300 dinner at a romantic Italian restaurant with an Instagram model on the way home from the airport. Amanda orchestrated the whole scene and he played along. OP mistakenly took his wife's fitness influencer friend out on a date and got caught when his pic ended up on Instagram. He spent $300 on the date and then walked her to the door. He knew what he was doing. Nobody is that dumb. I am so glad I do not date jealous people. It was just an, admittedly rather expensive, dinner with an acquaintance, and the wife wouldn't have gotten this worked up if her mom hadn't brainwashed the heck out of her. This is how affairs start. So yeah, better be ridiculously angry at him for something he didn't even think about ever doing. Now she's told him that her mom can easily influence her opinion even if there is no basis for it. Well, I hope they won't let them fester and can fix their trust issues. If OP was a woman, Amanda was a man, and everything else in the story was the same, everyone would call the husband controlling and jealous for asking the questions. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for telling my parents that if they don't like our lifestyle, they can leave? I'm upset, so I'll get right to the point. My husband and I both make well over 6 figures, but we work long hours, and as a result, when we're not working or at the gym working out, we just want to veg out. So we, when not working, will generally make breakfast but order out lunch and dinner or go out to eat. If we are working, we go out all 3 meals. Our loans are paid off, we own our condo, and we have no kids, so ordering takeout makes us happy. We also have a cleaning lady come twice a week to clean our home and do our laundry. Our parents came to visit us and were upset that we didn't cook for them the whole week except for breakfast. We took the week off because we knew both sets of parents were coming. We told them we don't cook except for breakfast, but our condo is right next door to a plaza that has a grocery, and they're welcome to cook if they like. But there were quite a few restaurants that we have yet to take them to, so why not try one of them? They got on us about how much money we were spending, and my mother-in-law got on me when the cleaning lady came and said I should be doing the cleaning because she worked and cleaned and took care of kids, so she doesn't get why I can't, which really upset me. So I went off and told her, because I'm not Superwoman, I have no desire to be and refuse to try. And if she wants a participation trophy for being overworked and underpaid, she can head to the bar and have a shot of Jameson. I then told her and my parents that I did not spend 4 years in college and 2 in graduate school to play Florence from the Jeffersons. It's an 80s show that my parents love to watch. So they went on to complain about how much money we were wasting. My husband told them that it's not their money, it's ours, and we don't consider it a waste. We told them the last thing we want to do when we get off from work is cook and clean. My husband told his mom that he never understood why she would work herself to the bone like that, even when he and his sisters tried to pitch in and help. She insisted on doing everything herself. I told her I will not be doing that. So they went on about an emergency fund. We told them before we started living the way we do, we made sure our student loans were paid off, and we each have a year's salary saved up plus investments. So we're good, thank you. My dad tried to be intrusive and ask about how much we both made, and we said, none of your business, at the same time, which made us both laugh, but they were not laughing. They didn't like our reaction and felt we were wasting money. We told them if they have a problem with our lifestyle, they could all leave. So they Ubered to a hotel. We really don't want them to leave just to drop the subject. So are we idiots for telling them they could leave? Update. I've texted both sets of parents and told them I'm sorry for what I said and I want them to come back, as I never wanted them to leave. That I know what I said about them leaving was out of line. I just wanted to drop the subject, but my way about it was wrong. I told them whether they decide to come back, I would like to reimburse them for the hotel rooms. Second update. We just met up at a restaurant near the hotel. They didn't want to eat, so we sat at the bar and talked. We told them that our finances are our business, and though we told them that if they don't like it, they could leave, we were not literal when we said that. We just wanted to drop the subject. They continued that we're wasting money. We told them it's our money to waste, and just because they consider it wasting money, we don't. We consider it one of the perks of our very fortunate life, and it was not going to change. We told them that we appreciate their concern, but we know what we're doing, that we don't have to agree with them, but it's not up for discussion or debate. We told them we would love to have them back and to enjoy the rest of the week with them, but any comments or conversations about how we spend our money will not be allowed. They agreed, and we're taking them to a restaurant a little off the beaten path that we know that they will love. No, they didn't apologize, but we didn't expect them to. Am I the jerk for telling my 17-year-old daughter not to throw tantrums while I'm working? My 17-year-old had final exams today. She didn't get as high of a grade as she wanted. It was a C. She came home literally crying and screaming about it while I, 43 female, was working up in my home office. My job requires a lot of video calls with other leaders in my organization, which is exactly what was happening when she came through the door. I had to mute myself so the background noise didn't carry and couldn't participate in my meeting. I didn't react angrily towards her, but later I made a semi-passive-aggressive remark about it, something to the effect of, "Yeah, I love it when you come home screaming when I'm on a work call." She launched a verbal attack about how she can't help it that she's depressed, and how could I possibly be angry, and said that I'm horrible to her and I don't care about her. I replied that she's allowed to be sad about a bad grade, but it doesn't warrant screaming and crying when she knows I'm working. It's okay to be sad, but there's a time, a place, and a way for expressing if that won't cause me problems at work, which is important because that's what keeps a roof over our head and food on the table. So Reddit, should I be more sensitive to her emotional state, or was I perfectly justified in my reaction? I really want to know so I can either work on myself as a parent or show her the opposite viewpoints posted here. She is now demanding that I apologize to her, but I think I was being reasonable because at 17, she needs to grow up a bit to prepare to function in the real world, where that behavior won't be tolerated. I think she owes me an apology. Update. I appreciate all your comments about how she may be experiencing an issue with her mental health. You're exactly right. I should have mentioned a few things. 1. We've had this conversation before about the importance of quiet. So yes, I have spoken to her about this maturely and as a good parent. I also didn't make this remark in the moment, but later when she was calm. And that was after I had given her a hug and talked to her about it. The remark I made was probably not kind, but was intended as a runabout sort of reminder that her tantrums have consequences. 2. Yes, she does struggle with anxiety and depression, and has been since she was younger. But she has been in therapy that whole time and sees a psychiatrist. 3. I've always tried to correct this behavior. One problem is the co-parent I had working against me for so long, who did allow this behavior at his house and undermined me and put me down to my daughter. My daughter is now actually very aware that his behavior was unacceptable and acknowledges how hard I've tried to be a good parent all these years. Co-parent passed 6 years ago and still trying to undo that damage. Not the jerk, but maybe have a discussion with her when she's calm about being mindful of your working hours and the conditions that the house needs to be quiet during those hours. She can be upset, but yes, there is a time and a place. She can go to her room and cry and scream and can talk to you about her frustration at a later time. I don't know if I'd apologize for letting her know that she was acting inappropriately, but maybe apologize if you made her feel like her feelings don't matter and explain how you do care about her and her feelings, but it's very frustrating to not be able to properly work. She owes you an apology for how she acted and then reacted to you, but I wouldn't outright tell her that she owes you one until after this whole discussion if she doesn't say something sooner. Karen charges us extra for something that didn't even happen, so we completely tanked her online reviews. This happened a few years ago. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, and I used to vacation in Asheville, booking cabins through a small rental company. We grew up there and loved it. Plus, she had friends and family in the area that we would visit while we were there. One of the rules the company had was that no extra guests were allowed to stay overnight, or there would be a fee. This rule never bothered us, as we never planned on having that. But we did invite a couple of my girlfriend's friends over to hang out for a little while. They got there around 7 to 8 and stayed until around 11 p.m. before heading home. We finished the trip, had a great time, and went home, thinking that everything was good. A few days after we got home, I got an email from a woman in the rental company who claimed that their maintenance guy saw that we had people stay over, and we were now being charged an extra $200 for breaking occupancy rules. Next came a back and forth between her and I, where I told them no one stayed overnight and that they had left around 10:30 to 11 p.m. But she claimed to me that occupancy is anyone being in the cabin at all, which made no sense. I looked up the legal definition of occupancy, which did not side with her, but she told me it didn't matter and that they would charge me the extra $200. Cue the revenge. Between my girlfriend and I, we got about 8 people with 20 different Google accounts, all leaving 1-star reviews on the company's Google page. This took the rating that they had of around 4.4 all the way down to mid-3 stars. It was a local company. Well, someone higher up must have gotten wind of this and they knew exactly who did it. Within a couple hours, I got several emails from the original woman and her supervisor apologizing for their misunderstanding and asking how they could get us to take down the bad reviews. After telling them it was clearly not a misunderstanding, I told them to buzz off since they wanted to treat us that way. And long story shorter than it could be, we ended up getting an offer of $200 off our next visit if we took the reviews down. And they obviously refunded me that extra $200 plus another $100 off that stay. Karen, I hope you understand what occupancy means now if you still have a job. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend. I'm honestly not sure where to start, so I guess I'll just start here. My husband and I have been dating since I was 19 and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 kids, and I'm 6 months pregnant with our third. 2 years ago, I found out my dad has stage 3 colon cancer. My dad is my only parent as my mom passed when I was 12. He's my favorite human, and life without him doesn't seem colorful. His laugh is contagious, and he gives these big bear hugs that seem to make all of your broken pieces feel like they're perfectly in place again. Whenever I've had a hard day, he doesn't poke and prod, and he just lets me vent and listens. About 5 months ago, we discovered that the treatments aren't working for him, and in direct quote of the doctor, he said, "Months, not years." Since then, he's gotten progressively worse, and now is losing memory. He looked at the dog he got for me on my 21st birthday and said, "Wow, that's a nice dog. Where'd you get it?" My husband has been my absolute rock. He has been there for me, holding my hand and helping me through all of this. He's been so loving and attentive to both me and the kids. Don't get me wrong, I am a mother first, always. I don't allow myself to wallow. My kids are still loved, cared for, and played with, and I haven't let my load slack around the house. Once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month later, we discovered we were pregnant again, and I still hadn't let go of my job. I kept holding out for some reason. After finding out I was pregnant again, he assured me it was still okay to quit my job, that honestly it would save us a small fortune on daycare costs anyways. So I did. I quit my job. My best friend and I have been friends since diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. My mom and her mom grew up together. We've always been solid, and right after my dad's appointment, when we found out he had so little time left, I drove straight to her house, and she held me while I cried for hours. If there are soulmates in friend form, she was mine. Thick as thieves is what my mom used to say. This morning, as I was up with my 3-year-old, he's sick, my husband's work alarm was going off. He has a few he sets, so I turned that one off and gently woke him up. He said he was up late working, so he took the morning off. Rolled over and he went back to sleep. As I went to turn off the remaining of his alarms, I saw a text from my friend on his lock screen that said, "I'm assuming since there hasn't been any angry pregnant lady on my doorstep, you haven't told her about us yet." Time froze in that moment. I took his phone and walked away and just read their conversations. 4 months, this man has been hooking up with my best friend. 4 months, these people have been lying to my face. And I know what you're going to say. You should have seen the warning signs. But I've been clutching this phone in my hand for 2 hours and nothing. He's been so loving and attentive to me, but he always has been. So kind and gentle. There's been no late nights or work nights except for once in a blue moon. There have been no lingering touches between them or even glances. They act as they have since the day I first introduced them. How sick is it that she calls him her brother, but they're doing this? I know so many people get a moment of clarity in situations like this, but I have none. Aside from being sad about my dad, I haven't changed. I'm still a loving wife and mother. I still doted on him and the kids. I talk to him about how he's doing and how is his day every day. I haven't allowed the ground to swallow me whole. I know what I have to do now, but I just don't want to. I'm about to lose my family and my support system in one blow. I'll confront him tomorrow. Today I just need this last 24 hours of peace. As for her, I won't give her the satisfaction of a response. I don't care why she did it. She did it and it's done. I was always the friend who cleaned up her messes. After today, I'll cut her out of my life like she never mattered at all. This has to be the hardest storm I'll ever weather, but darn it, I know I'll sail through it. If not for me, for my kids. Update. I spent the morning gathering everything I could and making a checklist. I sat in my office for the better part of the morning, telling my husband that I was preparing things for my dad. Not a total lie, I did have to get him sorted with hospice today. My boss would be happy to have me back. However, my lawyer said pump the brakes on that idea for the time being. However, my old boss did tell me that whenever I'm ready, the door is open and to just give her a call. He does not have access to my inheritance from my father nor my mother. My lawyer assured me of that. I didn't mention her in the post, but my mother-in-law is an absolute angel. I love and adore her so much, and she's always been a shoulder to lean on. After he had gone to work for the afternoon, I asked my now ex-best friend's mom and my mother-in-law to meet me at my dad's house. My kids were outside playing with my now ex-best friend's older daughter. I just handed them the screenshots, saving them from the unsavory pictures and the tape that was on there, though I did tell them that they existed too. To say they were furious was an understatement, and they're on my side completely. Angie, my now ex-best friend's mom, is ready to cut contact with her daughter completely. She kept repeating how sorry she was. We hugged and cried together. My mother-in-law told me she couldn't believe she raised a spineless, terrible human. That no matter what happens, I will always have her, and as far as she's concerned, she doesn't have a son, only a daughter. After an in-person meeting with my lawyer, we went over finances, logistics, and everything you could think of. She has all of the proof, and she's out for blood. I know a lot of people were hoping for me to get revenge or do psychological warfare, but honestly, after my kids went to bed, I just took a shower and just broke down. I don't have the strength or energy to dish anything out. I just want out. Pretending like everything was okay today was too exhausting, and I just don't want to do it anymore. Am I the jerk for telling my sister I won't change my hair color for her wedding? My younger sister, who's 28, is getting married. We just went out of town to go with her dress shopping. We went out for drinks after that to celebrate, and the conversation of my, 33 female, purple hair came up. I get a lot of compliments when I'm out, and I think she was already a little irritated that every wedding place loved my hair. Anyways, she said,
I planned on asking you to be a bridesmaid in my wedding, but you can't have purple hair. You'll need to dye it brown."
My response was, I worked really hard to achieve this color as it's been my dream hair color for a long time, and that I'm not dyeing it for one day, that it won't hurt my feelings to not stand up there with her and her million friends, especially considering I'm making her wedding cake and was already planning on finishing the decorations the day of her wedding. I told her I'd just have to scramble to finish her cake and get in for hair and makeup, and that I'm happy just sitting it out and making sure her cake is perfect. She snapped back with, "You're my sister, and I want you up there. It won't hurt you to dye it brown for a day. I love your hair, but it's my day, and I want all the attention on me, not your hair." I simply responded back with, "I still stand by my decision to sit out on this one." And she just said,
"Well, we have a year to discuss it."
"There's absolutely nothing to discuss. I'm not dyeing my hair brown for a wedding. Therefore, I simply won't be in my sister's wedding. Am I the jerk for not letting everyone's opinions and guilt make me change my hair for her big day?" During our conversation, I did make a joke about wearing a wig, and she didn't find that funny nor seemed keen on my solution. I also mentioned slicking my hair back into a low, pretty bun, so facing forwards, you couldn't really see much of my hair. That also wasn't a good solution for her. I did also tell her I would consider lightening my hair to a silver platinum, and that way I could easily have it changed back to purple. I know it's an issue because my mom was defending her, stating it's just hair and I can change it back from brown, which is not the case obviously. I'm dreading this conversation coming up again. I'm a baker, that's my side gig, and I happily offered to make their cake. It's something I enjoy doing. It's always been something we talked about was me making her cake. However, it's a very extravagant 4-tier cake that's going to be very flowered up. In my mind, I assumed I wouldn't be asked to be part of her wedding party since I told her the morning of her wedding I'll stack the tiers and get the flowers placed how she wants, and not just be in my own little world getting that perfectly together. Never in a million years did I think there'd be an issue with my hair, being in the wedding and getting the cake together all at once. Not the jerk. Your sister is much too full of herself. She's fine to have that as a requirement of a bridesmaid, but you are also completely entitled to reject it. Her trying to bully and manipulate you is big jerk energy. Side question, because I don't know too much about it, but why is the requirement always to dye their hair? Isn't a wig a much less damaging solution? You still don't need to do that. I just have seen multiple bridezillas demanding people dye their hair, and it never made sense to me. Not the jerk. I don't understand the narcissistic attitudes that often plagues even the most humble of women on their wedding day. Heaven forbid someone thinks a bridesmaid's hair is pretty. Why does this happen? Is it insecurity? My boyfriend recently passed, and I think he may have been cheating on me. Plus final update. So I was with my boyfriend for 3 years. We had a beautiful and perfect relationship. He was a wonderful man in every way. Just a month ago, he passed unexpectedly. Both his family and I have been devastated. We were going to move in together, but he was taken from me. About 2 weeks ago, his mother approached me with a box she found while cleaning his room. He would occasionally visit her and stay overnight, so his room was kept intact like when he lived there permanently. She had decided to tidy up and clean his room because she was in a better state, and she found a box with the initial of my name. She didn't open it, but could see superficially that there were things like letters, some dried roses, among other things. She decided not to look further because she thought they were my things or about us, so she thought it would be best to give it to me to review alone. I thanked her, but didn't feel ready to see all these things, so I put the box away. A couple of days ago, I went to visit his grave. As I got closer, I saw a woman there. I immediately stopped to see if I could recognize her, but it wasn't a family member or a friend. She had brought flowers and was crying. I was afraid to approach since I didn't know who she was, so I waited at a safe distance. She left after a few minutes and didn't even turn to look at me. It seemed obvious that I didn't know her. That whole night I couldn't sleep, thinking about this woman. Who is she? Where did she know him from? I knew all of his family, friends, and people from his work, and I didn't recognize her from anywhere. I couldn't be calm or sleep those days because I thought of so many possibilities, and he was no longer there to ask. I decided to go to his friends and tell them what had happened. As soon as I described the woman, they looked at each other nervously and seemed to know who she was, but they didn't say anything. I insisted and cried a lot, telling them that I deserved to know if I had the wrong image of my boyfriend. Finally, they told me it was his ex, and one of them confessed to having informed her about his passing and his resting place because he believed that he would have liked it if she went to see him. I felt like my heart fell to my feet. I asked everything I could. It turns out they had studied together since elementary school, and my boyfriend had been in love with her since then. In high school, they started a relationship that lasted approximately 4 years, and then they were on and off again until just 2 years before we started our relationship. According to what they knew, they had cut off all contact 5 years ago, but they didn't know for sure if that was true. I asked for her name, and it begins with the same initial as mine. Now I don't know what to think. I don't know if I should contact her to ask if she was with my boyfriend at the same time as me. I know that the first thing I should do is check that box and see if there are any of my things or things about her, but I can't. I'm so afraid of destroying my image I had of my boyfriend, of the man I thought he was. I don't know what to do. I was already devastated to lose him, but now I could also lose all the beautiful memories I have of him if I finally found out that he was cheating on me. His friends tell me to leave this issue alone because he's no longer here to defend himself. Update. After posting, I realized I wasn't okay and had to take care of my mental health. The first thing I did was call my mom and tell her I needed help because I was going downhill. She came in less than an hour, and that whole night I cried in her arms. Afterward, she helped me find a psychologist. We were able to schedule an appointment a few days later. So far, I've had a few sessions. I won't lie and say I'm fine now because I still feel like life sucks for taking him away from me. Sometimes I feel like I'm floating, disconnected from the world, or I forget that he's no longer here, and my first instinct is to look for him or call him if something happens to me. It's difficult, but at least I asked for help and I'm receiving it. So I'm in a better place now. But there's still a long way to go, and I know I'll have to do it without him. Regarding the box, I thought about returning it to his mom, but I really thought it was most likely about his ex. It was. I didn't want his mom to feel bad for giving me something that wasn't mine. I decided to give it to his friend and for him to get it into the right hands. He has truly been a rock for me, even though he just lost his best friend. They were friends since high school and studied together in college. The general reason for this update is that a few days ago, I spoke with her. I know, everyone was against me contacting her, but it was not intentional. And the truth is, I felt much better afterwards. I ended up seeing her again at the cemetery. I approached her. At first, she just looked at me, confused. When I told her who I was, she just saw me the way everyone sees me lately, with pity. We were silent for what seemed like an eternity, and then she started telling me something funny about him when he was a kid. She told me a lot of things that I didn't know about him. I must say, she was very kind and sweet, and she is so much like him in personality. Maybe it's because they grew up together, or because I feel so desperate to find him somewhere, but I really felt that they had the same way of speaking and the same sense of humor. Even though she was very afraid to talk about their time as a couple, she ended up telling me a little about them. She told me that for some reason or another, they were never able to fit together as a couple, even though they loved each other, so they decided to walk away before getting hurt. It turns out that the last time they spoke was 2 years ago when he wrote to congratulate her on her wedding. They didn't talk much beyond wishing each other the best. She told me that she was glad that he had found a person like me and that he had been happy. She also thanked me for the box, saying it contained very valuable things for her. That was all. There was no cheating, and she only confirmed that he was a wonderful person and I was very lucky to have met him. The only thing that made me sad was that even though he was always the best with me, I came to doubt his integrity as a person. Now, I just have to continue with therapy and try hard to learn to live without him. Thank you all. Am I the jerk for telling my mother that I'm not playing replacement parent to her kids anymore? I'm 23 female, currently live with my mother, who's 45. A couple of weeks ago, I left due to an argument and didn't come back home until yesterday. When I came back, she called me into her room to talk, and she had her friend on the phone. This particular friend is supposed to be my godfather, even though I've never met him. When I came into the room, the friend said that he was glad that I was home and that I needed to stop lashing out and not leave again. I told him that leaving for a little while was best for my mental health. He and my mother both said, "No, it's not." And I replied with, "Maybe it's not to you, but it was to me, and you can't tell me what is and what isn't good for my mental health." They said that my siblings missed me and hate it when I leave. I said that's what happens when you have siblings. Eventually they grow up and leave and live their own lives. They changed the subject and started talking about my siblings, who are 19, 16, and 13, saying that I needed to do more to help my mother with them and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, like chores, schoolwork, etc. I told her no. I've been basically raising my siblings my whole life, and I wasn't going to play replacement parent to them anymore. And plus, she's asked me to help before. And when I tried, she wouldn't listen, and all she did was get angry at me and say, "You're not the mother, I am." Besides, they're all old enough to know what they're supposed to do. My mother said that she's tired and needs a break and can't work and take care of them at the same time and really needs my help. I told her that I've been helping her without even a thank you, and now I'm done and need to start figuring out my own life. Her and her friend called me selfish and said that I only look at it that way because of my mindset and that I need to change my mindset and help the family more. I stood my ground and said that I just wanted to focus on myself from now on and that my siblings are old enough to know what they're supposed to do, and if they don't do it, then she needs to discipline them. Her friend asked me what I think the proper discipline should be, and I said that's up to my mother. He said that's too much work for her to do and asked why should she have to worry about things like that after getting off of work, and said that I should do it myself. I stood my ground and said, "No, you're asking me to play mommy to them, which I'm not going to do. I'm the big sister, not their mother. They called me a selfish jerk for not wanting to be a part of the family and helping. So, am I the jerk?" Edit. A few people are asking where our father is. We all have different dads. I never knew mine. My mother broke up with the next guy when I was 6. I never saw him again after that. A year later, my mother met and married another guy, but he passed about 3 years ago. But even when he was alive, I still did everything while they stayed in their room doing whatever. Edit 2. Yes, I work. I get up before dawn almost every morning and take 3 buses to work and 3 buses back when I get off. I don't pay rent, but if she needs financial help, then I give it to her. As far as other housework like cooking and cleaning, etc., since those are required for taking care of my siblings as well as myself, then yes, I've been doing those things since I was in elementary school. Not the jerk. Not your kids, not your responsibility. If your mom couldn't handle working and taking care of kids, she could have done what plenty of adults do and have less or no kids in the first place. Again, I wonder where the father is in all of this and why she's turning to OP for help instead of the father of her kids. Hook up with your ex days after I tell you I love you? I was dating this girl for a little while. I have kids and she has kids, and it was all good for quite a while. She did tell me right off the bat that she still lives with her ex for financial reasons. Neither of them could afford to move out, and she wants nothing to do with him. I did tell her I was a little uncomfortable about it and a little jealous, but I've been there before with my kid's mom, so I decided to trust her. I know, silly me. Last week, she came over to my house on Friday and stayed the night, and left to go to her niece's birthday party wearing my coat. While she was there, I told her that I love her, and she said it back. Then she went out with her friends to the bar Saturday night, and then came back to my house and cuddled up next to me in bed. Sunday morning she left, and really didn't talk to me a whole lot. She said she felt bad after she went to the bar, but wouldn't elaborate on why. Not like she was hungover, like she didn't feel good about herself, and I told her that she deserved to cut loose every now and then, before correcting me, saying that she had fun, but then dropped the conversation. I was getting kind of tired of carrying the conversation and being told she didn't want to talk about what was bothering her, so I went to bed. The next day, she told me she did something bad and that she wanted to avoid me until it all blew over. Obviously, I poked and prodded until she told me what it was, and she said she wanted to talk to me about it in person, but I told her that was a bad idea. But she finally admitted that she hooked up with her ex. It had nothing to do with the bar, but she needed male validation, and it felt like I didn't care after I went to bed, and that she was so sorry she's moving back in with her mom and that I could have the code to her phone. I told her that she told me I had nothing to worry about, and yet she jumped on this jerk the second I got tired of carrying the conversation. So I wanted my coat back and that she should drop it off when I wasn't home. She did, and she left a mug that she bought me for Father's Day, as well as a letter telling me again how sorry she was and that she didn't want to lose me. The worst part is that I liked the mug, but the thought of her with him filled me with blind rage, so I smashed it, put it in a box, wrote her name on it, and tossed it into her front yard. No, I'm not going to forgive you for hooking up with an ex that you swore I had nothing to worry about. The same one who you fight with constantly and talk bad about at every turn. I'm not coming back. I don't want your mug. I sincerely hope you feel bad about this. Edit. Looks like she found the package. I got a text from her that says, "Broken heart emoji. I'm sorry. I mean it. I'm upset with myself enough as it is. You really didn't have to drop the mug smashed up in the middle of my yard. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I can't stand myself. I'm sorry. I want to make it up to you. I didn't mean for it to sound like I was blaming you. None of it was your fault. I'm sorry. I'm truly deeply sorry." To which I replied, "Go play with a cactus," before blocking her number and all of her socials. Thanks, everyone. Am I the jerk for lying to my stepdaughter that the soup she loves is lactose and gluten-free for 6 months? I'm 35 female, and my stepdaughter, who's 15, she's been a nightmare for the past year when it comes to food. First, she became vegan, which I have no problems with. I just make her food sans animal products, but that didn't stick, and that's normal too. Now she's holistic, and she started having allergies from everything. Salted nuts, lactose, processed foods, gluten, red meat, mustard, mushrooms, and anything a loser Instagram influencer is making money telling people is dangerous. I had enough when she started demanding that I separate her cookware even in the dishwasher, separate her food in the fridge and freezer, take out all my salted peanuts and sugars, etc., and throwing them in the trash because she complained about stomach pain that she attributed to contamination from the pantry. I told her that she should either eat outside or do her own cooking and cleaning from now on. She started raging, saying that I was treating her differently from the rest of the family and that I'm the evil stepmother. My husband started yelling at me. I asked him to take her to do an allergy screening and seek mental help for eating problems, and surprise, surprise, she had no allergies, but her answer was that it doesn't matter. What matters is what she believed. Her stomachache was actually a real thing. So yes, I can't have anything in my house now, and I have to make her food in almost a separate kitchen. I had enough. I started putting gluten and lactose in almost everything she ate, especially the chicken soup that she loves so much. She's been eating this for the past 6 months until her mom dropped her off one day and stayed for coffee, talking about how actually their health has been better since her daughter's new kitchen rules. I just said, "Really? She feels better?" The daughter yelled at me, "Yes, I don't have stomach issues anymore." I just calmly said, "Great, I wonder what changed. Because you've been eating the same food as the rest of us for the past months, especially the chicken soup you love so much." She started yelling and throwing things off the shelves, and her mother started yelling at me too, and they left. My husband was angry at me and called what I did reckless because she's refusing to live with us now. And I said, "Great, if you want her to live with you, then you can move out too." They filed a lawsuit against me, but it will get dropped the minute the judge looks at the case. My husband's still angry at me, but I will not change my mind that if he wants his daughter, he should move out to be with her, and I would actually understand if he chose his daughter over me. Now she demands that I apologize and divide the kitchen into 2 areas if she ever decides to live with us again, because she's been having stomach problems since I started feeding her normal food. I urged my husband and his ex to seek mental help for her, but I told them that she is not welcome in my home. I'm a nurse and I work almost 60 hours a week. Making time to make food and clean is a luxury for me, and I'll be darned if I start to abide by the rules of a superficial teenager with delusions. If your husband wants to back up his daughter so much, he should get off his lazy butt and learn how to support her dietary needs. Him pawning it off on you, then yelling at you while he does nothing, shows just how supportive he actually is. If her mom is drinking the Kool-Aid, she can send your stepdaughter bashed meals that can be heated up by Little Miss Princess. Am I the jerk for telling my ex-girlfriend I won't help her until we do a DNA test? I, 25 male, need some advice. My ex-girlfriend, Emma, who's 23, and I were together for 2 years. We broke up 4 months ago because we wanted different things. The breakup was friendly, and we said that we'd stay friends. 2 weeks ago, Emma called me out of the blue, very upset. She told me she's pregnant and that the baby is mine. She wants us to get back together and raise the baby as a family. I was really surprised because we haven't been together or hooked up since we broke up. She said the timing lines up perfectly. I asked her how far along she is, and she said 3 months, which matches when we broke up. But we always used precautions, so I found it hard to believe. I told her I'd be there for the baby if it's mine, but I needed a DNA test to make sure. I didn't want to end up in a situation that's not true. Emma got really mad, saying I should trust her and that I'm being insensitive. She cried and said I don't love her or our baby. She said she couldn't believe that I'd doubt her like this. I tried to explain that that's not true. It's not about trust, but about being sure of something that will change my life. I said I'd support her emotionally, but wouldn't commit to anything financially or get back together until we had a test done. She hung up on me, and now she's telling our friends and her family that I'm refusing to help her. I'm getting messages from people saying I'm abandoning her and the baby. Some friends understand my side, but others think I'm being too harsh and paranoid. Am I the jerk for wanting a DNA test done before committing to anything? Not the jerk. This is a standard request if your ex comes to you months after breaking up telling you they're pregnant. She can get as offended as she wants to. You're not in a relationship. Trust isn't relevant. If she wants to start another relationship with you, it needs to start from the beginning. Friends get different trust standards than longtime couples do. The fact that she's pushing back so hard and spreading lies is rather telling. It could still be yours, but I wouldn't bet my finances on it. If she wants you to support the kid, she can prove it's yours. As an aside, getting together for the kid after you already know you aren't compatible is monumentally stupid. Even if it is your kid, you'd be better off co-parenting separately. You broke up for a reason. If this kid is yours, you don't have to get back together. You can still be a present father without being in a relationship. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for refusing to fire my nanny and telling my husband I would rather divorce him than fire her? My husband, John, who's 40, and I, 26 female, have been together for 5 years, married for 3, and we have 3 kids who are 3 months, 2, and 4. We met when I was still in college working part-time as a nanny for his friend's family. We crossed paths a few times at my nanny family's functions, and my nanny family gave him my number and encouraged me to go out with him. Initially, I only did because I didn't want to offend them, but we ended up really hitting it off. I accidentally got pregnant with my oldest about a year into seeing him. 3 kinds of birth control and still got pregnant. What are the chances? At first, I was devastated because I was just about to graduate and had already been offered an amazing internship in my field. The internship would require me to move across the country, and so I was already planning to leave my current job and break up with John so I could pursue my dream job. So my initial plan was to not go through with the pregnancy. However, long story short, I ended up staying with John and having my oldest, but under the agreement that I would start working ASAP and John would pay for childcare so I didn't have to be a stay-at-home mom and permanently walk away from career goals that I had worked very hard towards for basically my whole life. As soon as my son was born, I fell instantly in love, and the few resentments I had about the way things turned out completely disappeared. While I did stay home with him for the first year because I couldn't stand to leave him for more than a few hours, I was open with John about my plans to find a job in my field as soon as I could, and he was always on board and never expressed any issue with it. John and I got married when my oldest was 1, and John started pushing me to have more kids, but I refused because I felt ready to start working. I ended up getting a really great job offer at the company I'm still with today. I started looking for nannies and was put in contact with our current nanny, Sarah, who's 21. She has honestly been a godsend. She's the sole reason I made it through being apart from my baby, and she does such an amazing job. I honestly can't imagine my life without her. Shortly after I started my job, I accidentally got pregnant again, another birth control baby, and my husband tried to talk me into staying home with the kids again after my second was born, but I was too happy with my job. They offered to let me work from home part-time, which worked out perfectly. My husband wanted to cut back Sarah's hours as I would be home a lot more, but I refused because while I'd be able to feed and help take care of my newborn, I still wanted to be there to help with our rambunctious toddler while I was working. Our arrangement worked out really well, and I recently did the same with our third baby, while Sarah watches the older 2 during the days when I'm working. Sarah and I get along great. We have a lot in common, and I see her as a friend as much as an employee. My kids love her very much and ask about her whenever she isn't there. Since I was also a nanny, I'm able to work with her effectively, and I have so much respect and admiration for the job she does with my kids, and she's even more patient and hands-on than I ever was with my nanny family's kids. Even though we pay her a lot, I honestly think she's worth even more than that, and I tip her as much as I can. For some reason, my husband does not feel the same way. He's very critical of her. Not to her face, he has very little interaction with her as most days she leaves before he gets home. To me, he's always nitpicking how she does things, like if a few toys get left out in the playroom, if she used too much gas in the car, if she got fast food for the kids instead of cooking them a meal, etc. He tells me she's not worth what we're paying her and that she's doing an easy job that I was fine doing for free. This irritates me like nothing else, because while yes, I don't find looking after my kids particularly difficult, I wouldn't call it remotely easy, and it's much different when it comes to dedicating most of your free time to looking after someone else's kids. And Sarah goes above and beyond to make sure my kids are safe, happy, and entertained every day, and even does some preschooling with them. Last week, my husband confronted me with some of the footage from our security cameras of Sarah ignoring the kids. The whole thing was completely ridiculous. There was one video where she left my 2-year-old in her high chair crying for 5 minutes while taking my 4-year-old to the bathroom 3 feet away. There was one where she let them stay up past bedtime to finish a movie while she worked on schoolwork. All relatively innocuous things like that I couldn't care less about. The worst of it was a video of her texting on her phone for like 30 minutes while my kids were playing, which we have asked her to not be on the phone while playing with the kids. But even though she technically did something wrong, she's a human being. She's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. Once he was done showing me, he then accused me of not caring about our kids' well-being, because if I did, I would agree with him that we need to fire her. I told him there's no way that we're going to fire her, and if it wasn't for her, our kids would actually be ignored because we both work full-time. He told me that Sarah was trying to take over my role as a mother in my kids' eyes, and she was coming between me and our family, and if I cared about our family, I would want to fire her too. I laughed in his face and told him I'd rather divorce him and pay for her myself than fire her and quit my job. He stormed out and hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the jerk? Edit. I thought this was just an annoying ongoing argument between my husband and myself about our nanny, but you all have opened my eyes to a much deeper issue. And I want to say that I'm a bit worried it came across like I resent getting pregnant or having kids, but I don't. I love my kids more than anything, and I would not trade them for the life I wanted before or choose my job over them if it ultimately came to that. I do stress about the accidental pregnancies a lot because it makes me feel out of control of my own life and body, but I hope that doesn't come across as me having regrets over them. The last thing I want is for people to think my kids are a burden who have ruined my life, because they're a gift and have brought more love to my life than I knew I was capable of. I really don't feel trapped by them or anything like that. Not really sure where to go from here or how to investigate this further. Many of you were concerned about me not having an emergency fund or a safety plan, and I do keep my finances separate from his, and luckily I make good enough money that I could leave if I really needed to. Not the jerk. Your husband says Sarah is doing an easy job that you were fine doing for free. This shows he puts no value on your career or happiness outside of the roles of wife and mother. Since you make enough money to cover her wages, it's not about the money. He wanted you to be a stay-at-home mom and you wouldn't have brought in any income. Sounds like he wanted a traditional wife, and he probably thought with each baby, now you'll be a stay-at-home wife. I can't see this going anywhere good. I don't know what his problem is unless he thinks you and Sarah are having an affair. Start pestering him about quitting his job to be a stay-at-home dad. You're the jerk for 2 reasons. 1, you start off by saying, for some reason, your husband is not a fan of Sarah. Then you later mention that your husband caught her texting for 30 minutes instead of watching your toddlers. Sounds like your husband is justifiably concerned father. Moreover, if you can see that Sarah texts on her phone instead of supervising your kids like she's supposed to, it doesn't make sense for you to be so stubbornly loyal to Sarah. You come off as incredibly cavalier about a nanny ignoring your kids for 30 minutes in order to text people. Would you also be okay with your husband taking a 30-minute nap while no one else is home and the kids are running around the house? I doubt that. Hard to believe you're unwilling to at least talk to Sarah about job expectations. 2, your style of defending Sarah is creating a false binary by implying that firing Sarah is equivalent to not having a nanny at all, as if it's out of the question for you to suggest hiring a different nanny. You're the jerk. You'll have to fire her in a divorce anyway. You won't be able to afford her. You'll get child support, but that won't cover the nanny. His assets acquired prior to marriage are protected, and you can't touch them with a marriage as short as yours. I'm a single parent with a high-paying job, so I know the costs involved. I don't think you thought your threat out to completion. You should also do some soul-searching. If the nanny is more important than your husband, you should probably divorce for everyone's future happiness. Am I the jerk for breaking my vegan diet? My, 15 male, entire family are vegans. My dad especially is a very vocal vegan. He goes to protests. He was in vegan groups in our old city. He's a vegan activist, which I love. I'm not trying to paint those things as bad. I really respect him for his thoughts. My brother and I have both been raised vegan our entire lives. At school, it's always made me feel othered, is the best way I can explain it. never able to eat anything sold in the school canteen. At friends' birthdays, we're never able to eat a piece of cake with my friends or have to be the one who says, we can't go to that restaurant if they don't serve any vegan food. Always having to explain why I'm not allowed to try a bite of their sandwich. They aren't huge things, but they are things that make me stick out. Since I'm an awkward guy anyway, it just doesn't help me socially. So when we moved cities and I joined a new school last Monday, I decided that I'm not going to follow the vegan diet while I'm at school. I kept this to myself because I know my parents wouldn't support it and they'd be angry. When at home or with my parents, I will follow the vegan diet, but if I'm out with my friends or at school, then I don't. In my mind, this was respectful of my parents' wishes. No meat in the house or around them, but myself was different. My brother and I both go to this new school. I didn't tell my brother that I wasn't going to follow the vegan diet. I didn't think he would support it, and I thought he would tell my dad. Things have been going all right, but I didn't know that on Fridays, my brother's lunchtime would be the same as mine. I was sitting with some new friends, and I was eating a cheese pizza. This is the only non-vegan food I've eaten so far. I want to try pepperoni, but still feel a little scared, and my brother caught me and asked what I was doing eating pizza. I tried to play it off, but I knew I was done for. My brother told my parents, and now everyone is really upset at me. I've been grounded, and my dad said he's going to call my new school and tell them that if they sell me non-vegan food, he will put in a discrimination complaint, which is just going to make me seem like a weirdo now. I tried to explain to him that I was trying to be respectful by not doing it here, but my parents just gave me a huge lecture how I'm so selfish for breaking the diet. He said he can't trust me anymore, and now I feel guilty in one half of my brain, and in another, I'm telling myself that it's not a big deal and they're overreacting. But I don't know if I'm just being blind. Please, no debates about the ethics of the vegan diet. I don't care to debate it with anyone. I'm sure there are subreddits where people will be happy to. Please focus on my situation when giving your verdict. Not the jerk. It's really unfortunate your brother ratted you out. On the plus side, it means OP has a valid explanation next time someone asks if he wants to try something. Sorry, I can't. My brother's a snitch. Yeah, he snitched on me for eating pizza. He's a weirdo, right? At least that's what I would like to pretend I would do in this situation. OP, my brother's only 11. While I'm mad at him, I don't want to make his school life hard. I'll probably just keep it to myself, and I'll remember we have the same lunchtime on Fridays, if I'm even brave enough to eat non-vegan again. Not the jerk, but you're not in a great position to rebel against your family's choices. The emphasis on a vegan lifestyle is similar to a religious lifestyle, and it seems that your father views it that way if he's ranting about discrimination cases. Not the jerk. Not sure how old you are, but you should not at all feel guilty about how strictly you even follow a vegan diet. I bet your dad ate pepperoni pizza before he became a vegan. OP, I'm 15, and honestly, I doubt it. My parents raised my dad vegetarian before they became vegan, and he's super serious about it. I can't imagine he's ever eaten meat. My mom probably has. She turned vegan when she met my dad. The part about your dad making a discrimination complaint to the school if they sell you animal products is hilarious to me. Since he's in activist circles, I'd think that he would know that's not discrimination. You're not the jerk. OP, I don't know. I think what he's truly saying is he will embarrass me in front of everyone. He's made big fusses about me being vegan before at school, and he knows I don't like when he does that. He probably thinks that I'll just agree so he doesn't come in and do his whole act to embarrass me. How do I make my wife tell me who's sending her food to her workplace on a daily basis? This is a first. Since the 10 years that we've been together, there hasn't been a single jealousy-induced fight since neither of us are the jealous type. I was cheated pretty bad by another person. She knows this and knows I'm insecure about it, so we both are pretty open about our friends and families to avoid misunderstandings between us, until she started getting all secretive with this specific matter. She stopped eating the food I cook for her because someone pays for her food now. The catch? There aren't any coworkers in her office. She does consultation at her own little one-person place, and everything else is managed off-site by the company she's working for. Now, why I'm making a big deal out of this? It was not a big deal until it was. I was super happy for her because maybe some client was so satisfied with her service that they sent her food in gratitude. It was a bi-monthly occurrence at best, and she used to tell me, "Hey, this client sent me some Starbucks. Nice." Or, "Wow, other client's mother made me a sandwich and some Jell-O." But then it became bi-weekly, and then she stopped knowing who sent her the expensive food. Nowadays, it's daily. She always returns my food to me when she gets home, gone all bad because she didn't eat it. I don't make a big deal, but I stopped making jokes about it like, hey, tell them to send some for me too, or things like that, because it started to annoy me that she doesn't eat my food and lets it go bad. I'm a pretty good cook and I hate wasting food, and it got weird when she started to show off that the food someone sent to her is better, costly and restaurant made. It started as an annoyance about wasting food, but what triggered my insecurity about this is that one day, after she sent me the usual picture, I told her, "Surprise! I went ahead and sent you that myself." And she replied, all annoyed, "Ha ha, funny. I know it wasn't you." So I told her, "Who was it then?" Her answer, I don't know." So she doesn't believe that it was me, but doesn't know who it was. The second catch, they always send her things pretty specific to her likings. I may be paranoid, but most items she gets are things that she has to tell someone she likes, since it's not generic expensive food, but menu items catered to her palate or drinks prepared exactly how she likes them. She could be ordering herself, but she denies it. She knows I don't mind, I just don't want her wasting food. If she's ordering food for herself, why doesn't she tell me? I told her it wouldn't be a problem, since that way I can save food at home and won't wake up as early, but she still denies and still doesn't know who it is. It's the first time I get this type of treatment from her. Why be so secretive about food? She knows it'll only get worse if you hide this type of thing. Why is she being so mysterious and mischievous about it? This is weird. She's playing some kind of mind game with you. If she didn't want to tell you who was sending it, then why would she tell you about it at all? It's so childish, like literally something we would do in high school. "Hey, I got flowers today." From who? I don't know. It's always to provoke jealousy. Am I the jerk for telling my friend we are tourists and we shouldn't act like we're not? I'm 21, female. As a post-graduation trip, me and my friends are going on a trip to France next summer. This is my first time going to Europe, so I'm really excited, and we're currently in the planning stage. The issue concerns one of my friends, Katie, who's also 21, female. Katie has never been out of the country, and somehow she's got it in her head that the worst thing someone can be in another country is a tourist. I think she's read too many articles and watched too many TikToks about how Europeans can't stand American tourists. Anyways, she's now trying to change our trip to be as untouristy as possible. For example, she sent the rest of the group pictures of French street fashion and is insisting that we can only pack outfits that look like that. When one person said she didn't have clothes that look like that, Katie just said, "Guess you'll need to go shopping." She also says that Europeans do not wear sneakers and will immediately label us as tourists if we're seen wearing them, so we can't bring them, even though we'll be walking a lot. Additionally, when I tried to suggest places for us to visit, Katie immediately shot them down and said that those are too touristy, and we would try and find other places to go to. When I asked her what kind of places, she pulled up some French residential neighborhoods and local shops and said we would be better off spending our time there since it's more authentic. To be clear, she's not concerned about avoiding pickpockets since we've already purchased pickpocket-proof pouches. It's just about looking like tourists. In my view, there's nothing wrong with being a tourist and doing touristy things as long as we're respectful of the locals and French culture. Besides, if I'm only getting a limited time in France, I don't want to be spending it all just walking around random people's houses and looking at them like they're zoo animals. I told this to Katie and she got upset and said I was the reason why Europeans can't stand tourists. I told her that we are tourists. Why try to hide it? I'm pretty sure French people would be more annoyed if we tried to act like we were locals instead of just being respectful visitors. Katie got even more upset and said that if I want to be disrespectful of their culture, then I can go to France on my own. She then left our planning session. The rest of our group is kind of split on the issue. Most of them agree with me and think it's a waste of time to walk around residential neighborhoods instead of the sightseeing, but they're also very afraid of being perceived as annoying Americans. So I'd like to get some more perspectives on if I'm the jerk here. I've traveled a lot. People in other countries love tourists. They just can't stand you if you're arrogant. It does sound like Katie is that sort of arrogant American that people from other countries will not appreciate. Tourist attractions have the infrastructure to support tourism. Choosing not to go there and instead go to areas that may not have that support isn't somehow going to make you all beloved to the French locals. By all means, visit some of the beaten path destinations. Find a local guide and enjoy the path less chosen. But don't miss out on other cultural locations simply because you don't want to be a tourist. Just be polite and culturally sensitive.
A Karen demanded that I clean the toilet.
I visited my mother at work today. My mom works in an office that gives out documents for truck drivers. Before the lockdown, I used to go with her often to work to help her. The work there is hard. I was usually handing over documents for the drivers, photocopying documents or other things. Like every employee, my mother has keys to the office staff toilets, where the drivers don't have them and have to use another, paid toilet. In order not to lose money, my mother would give me the keys, as it was today. My mother always told me that the women in her work were terribly messy. When you went to the toilet, there would be water spilled all over the sink, paper was all over the floor around the toilets, and sometimes people didn't flush the water after using the toilet. When I went to the toilet, the first thing I saw were pizza boxes standing on the sink, just left by some woman. I asked myself, how can you be such a person to leave something like that? I hate messes. It's just that when I see something being messed up, I can't walk past it, and I just have to clean it. So I took those pizza boxes, folded them up, and threw them in the trash. And then I saw that there was a big puddle of water on the floor. Great. I took the paper and started wiping it up. Then a woman came in there. She walked past me, ignoring me. I had not even finished wiping the floor when she shouted, "There's no paper!" I knew what a problem it was when you went to the bathroom and there was no paper. Hold on. I took the roll of toilet paper and threw it into the cubicle where she was and went back to mopping the floor. When the woman came out, she immediately approached me.
Start doing your job seriously.
Me? Excuse me?
You should make sure that there is toilet paper in every cubicle.
Me? I don't work here.
Yes, you do. Otherwise, why would you be wiping the floor?
Me? Because there was a puddle of water?
And why are you wiping it?
Because people like you make a mess and leave it for the cleaners to clean up later?
That's what cleaners like you are for. By the way, wipe around the toilet. It's dirty there.
I looked at her. I was mad. Me? I don't work here. And even if I do, it doesn't give you the right to humiliate me or anyone else. If there weren't any cleaners, you wouldn't be happy. I threw the paper in the bin and left. I felt the woman grab my jacket. I turned rapidly towards her. Me? Don't touch me with your dirty hands. I didn't hear you flush the toilet. You are disgusting. The woman was shocked. I fixed my jacket and left. Later, I told it to my mother what had happened. She was proud of me for doing that. Please respect the work of others. If you walked into a public bathroom and saw a mess, would you clean it up? Please let us know.
No.
I was hoping you'd leave that behind for me and my son. This happened about 3 years ago and involves my best friend, her son, who was about 3 at the time, and I. She and her son's birthdays are like days apart, so I invited them out to have breakfast, but she's awesome and decided to make Dad babysit while we had a girls' brunch. I brought along a gift bag with a present for her and one for her son. The thing is, I really love giving meaningful gifts. I may not be able to afford something huge, but I make up for it in really trying to find something I think the recipient would like. I've known my best friend since we were 8. She loves to smell good, but hates putting chemicals and crap on her skin. I don't blame her one bit. So I bought her a rather nice little collection of natural soaps, and her son, who was big into trains at that time, a toy train that you could snap together and it would teach you numbers and colors and such. Well, the thing about this soap is that if you walk into a room, in about 10 seconds you will smell it. It smells divine, just intoxicatingly good. So we got to the restaurant, get a booth, and I give her the gifts. Of course, the first thing she pulls out is that soap, and she's over the moon delighted with it. That whole corner now smells incredible, and a couple people are like, "Wow, what is that? It smells so good." She also checks out the train and goes on and on about how much her son is going to love it. He did. Our waitress comes over, and she also asks what smells so good. My friend showed her the gifts, and she was all about wanting to know where to get it and so on. I told her. The waitress made a comment that she had a son the same age and that he was obsessed with trains. We just kind of smiled and laughed it off, enjoyed our meal. I paid and left a nice tip, and as we're getting ready to walk out the door, the waitress stops us. Waitress: "Hey, where are you going with that?" My friend: "With what?" Waitress: "That gift bag." My friend mistakenly thinks this woman might like to, for some reason, have the bag these things came in. So she's like, "Oh, do you want it? Let me just put these in my car and you can have it if you..." Waitress: "No, I mean what's inside." My friend and I are utterly confused at this point and are like, she's putting them in her car to take home to her son?" The waitress's face falls. "Oh," and her voice just trails off. Awkward silence. Finally, I ask the waitress if she wants me to write down the places where I got these gifts. She snaps at me and goes,
No, I was hoping you'd leave them behind for me and my son.
My friend's like, these are my birthday gifts that she got for my son and I. Why would we do that? That's crazy. She already told you where to buy them. Now excuse us, we're leaving. We start walking out the door, and this lady is a bit large and is sort of blocking the way, and she's like,
My son really loves trains, and that soap smells so good. Are you sure you can't just give them to me and buy yourself something else?
My friend, yeah, I'm sure. Bye. And we walk out the door, hurriedly. This was by far one of the weirdest moments either of us had with a random entitled mom. We still joke about it to this day. Before lockdown, one of us would bring over food and be like,
Hey, where are you going with that? My son really loves fries. Buy yourself something else.
Would you have given the soap to the waitress or not? Please let us know.
What if the waitress was actually just joking about the whole thing?
She knew I didn't work there. First off, background. For 6 years in the late 90s and early 2000s, I worked for an educational toy store in the local mall. It was a smaller store, and we got to know many of the parents and kids that came in by face, if not their names. Now to the main story. When the store ended up closing, it had the side effect of me now having to go somewhere else to buy gifts for the kids in my life. Because of that, the following November, I'm in Walmart checking out their toy section. While doing so, I heard a voice in the next aisle over that, while familiar, I couldn't place it. Not finding what I was looking for in the aisle I was in, I go to the one with the familiar voice, mainly because it was the next aisle, but it was also because it would let me put a face to the voice. It turned out to be a former regular at my old store. We make eye contact. I nod, expected that to be it. She was talking to a store employee, so I was simply going to stay out of the way and do my shopping. Apparently, she had other ideas. Let's call her Parent, and we've got me. Parent. Hey, OP, I know you don't work here, but can I ask you a question? As I turn to look at her, I see the stunned employee looking from her to me and back, just floored. I can't tell if this would be a good toy for my son, and the employee doesn't normally work this section. Maybe it's because I've worked too many years of customer service, or that I remembered her being one of the easier to work with parents. Either way, I said sure. It wasn't a toy line we had carried at my old store, but we had sold things from the same company. I flipped the box over in my hand for a few seconds until I found the recommended age range, pointed it out to her, and started asking questions. What was her son's age again? What grade was he in? Did she feel he was above average for a kid his age developmentally? These questions led me to giving her a somewhat informed opinion about if the toy would be a good fit for him. For anyone wondering, I asked those questions because every toy had a recommended age range, but this was for the average kid. If a kid has a strong aptitude in the right areas, it's completely safe for them to play with a more advanced toy with a parent say-so. Nee, he's too young by the listed ages, but it's only by a year. If you think he's safe with it, I think you'll be okay. She looks relieved. Parent. Thanks so much. He really wanted this, but I couldn't find the age range. I felt kind of stupid, but you found it so easily. Me. Honest mistake. This company is bad about putting their ages where people normally put their hands to hold the box. I'm used to it. Not really true, just trying to be nice. Parent. Thanks again. I miss your old store. With that, she puts the toy into her basket and leaves me and the still stunned employee standing there. Employee. What just happened? I laughed, then explained how I knew the woman. I'm not sure I would have been okay helping in your position. Me. It's cool. She was always one of the good customers. Even upset and frustrated, she doesn't yell, and I'm willing to bet you understand how rare that is. The employee nods sagely. Besides, it didn't even take 5 minutes. Well, see ya, I gotta get my own shopping done. With that, I went down to the end of the aisle to see if they had what I needed. So she knew I wasn't an employee, and she wasn't a crazy Karen. But her just turning from the employee to ask me, and the what the heck look of the actual employee's face always makes me smile when I remember it. Am I the jerk for refusing to make any more meals for my girlfriend after she kept complaining about my cooking? Things have been great with my girlfriend for the most part. We, 28 female and 26 male, have been together for 4 years and living together for 2. Lately there's been some tension, so I feel like maybe that's why things may have boiled over. We both work a lot, So we have both been very cranky and moody, especially my girlfriend, who snapped at me a few times and has been in a really bad mood. For the past few days, what's really set her off is my cooking. I'm usually the one making breakfast, packing our lunches, and dinner. Literally any time I've been at the stove, she complains about how bad the smell is and gives me crap about using stuff that has obviously gone bad according to her, or saying it tastes bad and won't even finish eating. This has upset me. I'm not a chef, but I do pride myself in my cooking, and she's talking about how bad my food is. I've had my coworkers try my lunch, and they tell me it tastes just fine. I figured with all the stress she's under at work, she probably needed an outlet to let out her frustration, and maybe that's why she's giving me crap about simple things. I don't know. But I snapped a little this morning when she again complained about the omelet I was making us. So I actually dumped the eggs in the trash, told her she can make her own darn breakfast for herself then, and I'm not cooking for her anymore if she's gonna keep acting spoiled about what I make. We ended up having an argument over this, and we left for work mad. Anyways, my girlfriend didn't come home and her sister called me. My girlfriend's mad at me, and her sister thought I was being a jerk for reacting so immaturely by refusing to cook for her anymore when I know she works a lot. So sometimes she doesn't have the time to prep her own meals. I don't know why this was turned into a bigger deal, but here I am sitting at home wondering if I was being a jerk for losing my cool and telling her that I'm not cooking for her. Just didn't think it's fair for her to be talking crap about my cooking when she never has before, and thought, well, if she doesn't like it, then she can take over the kitchen. Was I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is his girlfriend? Please let us know.
I'd throw some ramen in the microwave for her.
Customer wants items delivered to home, outraged when I ask him his address. First post on Reddit here, but binging all these posts reminds me of an incident that took place back in 2013 when I was working at a branch of a large upmarket department store chain in South London. I've moved on from this job a long time ago now, so please do forgive me if some of the details are a bit hazy, but here's the gist. A couple of blokes from Eastern Europe come in wanting to buy a kettle and asking what the options were for them to pick it up later. One of them did not speak. I suspect his English was not good. The other had reasonable English. I explained that they could pick it up right away as we had them in stock. If they wanted to, they could pick it up later in the day from Click and Collect, or for a fee, we could deliver it to their address, provided the address was in the UK or Ireland. They chose the delivery option. I put in the details of what they wanted to buy to the computer and came to the section where I had to put the delivery details. This was where the fun began. The conversation went something like this. Me: could I ask your address, please? Moron:
Why do you need to know my address?
Me: because you said you wanted it delivered. Moron:
But why do you need to know my address?
That's how we know where to deliver your package. Otherwise, we won't know where to deliver it.
But it's your job to know these things.
Me: it's my job to ask you. I'm not a psychic, and I don't automatically know your address. Moron:
But I don't feel comfortable giving my address out. I don't know you, and I want to preserve my privacy.
Me: I understand that, sir, but if you won't give me your address, then I can't have your kettle delivered to you. There are 20 million addresses in the UK, and if I pick one at random, chances are it won't be yours. Now either you can tell me your address, or you can come pick it up at Click and Collect, or you can take it with you now. Moron:
You're an idiot.
At that point, I had enough, and his insult was a good enough pretext to end the conversation. I informed him that I was not going to be taking this kind of treatment and that I would not be serving him further. He muttered something to his friend in their language and moved away. Thankfully, I never saw them again, and no doubt he went to annoy some other underpaid customer service guy with his tomfoolery until he got his kettle. Am I the jerk for rescinding my offer to bake cakes for my friend's wedding? To preface, this wedding wasn't going to happen until lockdown ends. I'll be using fake names. Those involved are me, 22, female, the bride/friend, Cassie, 24, female, and her fiance, Adam, 25, male. Cassie has always loved my cakes and asked me to make 8 for her wedding late last year. We agreed they'd be 1-tier cakes to be used as table centerpieces. I loved the idea. We agreed that they'd be decorated a particular way that wasn't too elaborate. I was happy with the arrangement and super excited by the prospect. Early January, she decided she wanted 3-tier cakes instead and wanted them decorated much more intricately. The intricacy wanted is nowhere near my ability. I don't really have the free time to learn how to do it either. I have a lot on my plate in my day-to-day life, and I know even doing the one-tier cakes would be a little tricky, but absolutely manageable. I politely said I couldn't do that and tried to offer a compromise. I offered to find a way to do 3-tier cakes, but more simplistic than she'd have liked. I also offered to get her in contact with a skilled friend of mine who I knew could do what she wanted. She'd have to pay, but the price would have been extremely good, and they'd be beautiful cakes, worth every penny. She got very angry at this compromise effort. She called me selfish and told me I was sabotaging her big day, then demanded I do it for her while getting a few of her friends to send me rude and disheartening messages. This was heartbreaking for me, but I told her I could no longer do the cakes, and she got angrier. We haven't talked since that until yesterday. I received a message yesterday acting like nothing happened, asking me to do the cakes again because I owed her. She said I'd be a useless friend if I didn't. I declined, and she chewed me out again, saying things that were unnecessary and I'd rather not repeat. I'd had enough. This had already been stressful for me, and I hated being dragged into it. I messaged Adam, sending him some screenshots, asking if he'd please make her stop lashing out. She was hurting, but I didn't deserve the things she said. I didn't get a reply until today, where he apologized profusely. He told me she had done this to another friend before me, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back for him, and he was going to call off the wedding until they had been to counseling together. I thanked him for being understanding, but a few hours later, Cassie and her friends started harassing and threatening me. It's been horrible. My boyfriend is urging me to cut out Cassie, but I can't help feeling like a jerk. If I made time to learn, this whole situation wouldn't be happening. So does that make me the jerk? Am I being selfish? He's reassured me that I'm not, but I could really do with an outside perspective. Edit, update. Oh my gosh. I fell asleep last night after posting this and didn't expect to wake up to a response anything like this. Thank you so much everyone for taking the time to respond. I'll try and find time to respond to some comments later. To touch on a few things I've seen mentioned, Cassie is now cut out, as are her friends. People saying I was being a doormat were completely right, and those saying I need therapy also were. I've been actively looking for a therapist I click with. I used to be good at recognizing behavior akin to this, but lockdown has taken a toll on my mental health. A few people mentioned a contract-style situation with a friend discount. I'll definitely do some thinking on that idea to try and help avoid situations like this from happening again. For those saying I shouldn't have contacted Adam, I did on the sole basis that this was his wedding as well. I stand by my choice to contact him. For those mentioning getting the police involved, if any further threats happen, I will. I've documented everything that's happened so far just in case. Thank you again for taking the time to hear me out, support me, and give judgment. I really appreciate it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Cassie? Please let us know.
Adam should be thanking you, to be honest. You just saved him from ruining his life.
Am I the jerk for not giving my non-biological son his college fund? About 6 years ago, I bought my oldest child one of those home DNA tests to find ancestors, and I found out that my 12-year-old was not my biological son. After official lab testing, it turns out that only 2 out of 4 of the kids were actually mine. Luckily, my wife and I signed a marriage contract forfeiting marital property, common in my religion, in the event of infidelity, and this gave me rock-solid proof. I gave my kids an ultimatum because I did not want my ex-wife in my life, period. No co-parenting BS. Although it was probably not the best decision, we let the kids choose, who are 12, 10, 8, and 7, who they wanted to live with, and my ex-wife decided to move to another state with one of her many cheating partners approximately 500 miles away. I assumed they would all stay with me because my wife was a complete psycho. Unfortunately, when my oldest, 12, male, heard that he had a real dad that was not me, he decided to live with my mom to have a relationship with his biological dad. My 10-year-old daughter's biological dad passed away, and she was always very close to me, so we had no issues maintaining our father-daughter dynamic in light of this info. Fast forward 6 years, an ex-son is 18 and planning to go to college. When each of my kids were born, I immediately started putting away money for them in a fund for them to spend on college, house payment, or whatever really. I have done well in my business, and my oldest son's fund is about $120,000. I originally paid my son and ex-wife monthly for child support and alimony. Both of these commitments were barely enough for them to live on because we agreed to a lower settlement when her lawyers realized she had no chance in court due to her being the town bicycle. Apparently, his mother has been telling him about his fund and expected that I would be paying this out. However, these funds were marital property and belonged to me. This kid calls another man his father and has barely spoken to me in 6 years, despite me making several attempts to reach out to him with birthday cards and offers for him to come for holidays. I said, these funds were started for my kids, and had you decided to be my kid, this fund would belong to you, and hung up the phone. Obviously, this infuriated him, and he responded by calling my business partners and telling them that I had disowned him because he was gay. I think the biggest irony is that I have so little relationship with him that I didn't even know he was until this incident. But he thought that my conservative values had something to do with him not getting the fund. Am I the jerk for not giving him the fund? In fact, I plan to give his fund to my soon-to-be stepson, who is only 5, instead. I realize I am punishing a kid for mistakes made when he was a 12-year-old, but at the time, he did not want to be my kid, and these funds were meant for my kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his son? Please let us know.
Oh, I can't wait to see what our audience thinks of this one.
This isn't a dog daycare. A while back, I was working in an office that allowed dogs. It was an open floor plan, and since customers never came into the office, we kept the dog food and water bowls right by the front door just because it was the most convenient space and no one else would see them but us who worked there. Of the 6 of us who worked in the main office area, I was the only one who didn't have a dog. No pets policy at the apartment, and always felt horribly left out. To make matters worse, across the way was a doggy daycare. One day, a very frantic woman came in, and she had an absolutely massive dog with her. Usually, the only people who came into the office were associates who had appointments with someone working there, but it was rare they brought their dogs. She ran up to me and said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yes, how can I help you?" And she said,
I wasn't sure if you took walk-ins, but I read online I could just drop him off. I tried to call, but no answer.
I didn't know what she was talking about at that point, and I said, "Come again? Who did you call exactly?" Thinking if I could just saddle her off to whoever she came to see, I wouldn't have to decipher her problem. She said,
Well, it doesn't matter now. Look, something urgent's come up, and I really need to leave him here. Here's his food he likes, and I'll be back in a few hours, and...
At this point, I wasn't thinking of the doggy daycare. I thought maybe she was a friend of someone here. I said, "Well, all right. Can I get your name, please?" And she said her name and then asked if I needed her to sign anything. And I was so confused at this point, I just said, "Why would I need you to sign something?" And she left almost immediately. So I took Otis, the dog, to the back and showed him to my coworkers, and no one knew the woman or dog. I was worried she wouldn't come back, but at the same time, my wish for an office dog had been granted, and Otis was supremely chill. All he did all day was lie around and drool onto his own ears. I just freshened him up every now and then, took him out every couple hours, and he was happy as a clam on a big, cushy dog bed we thankfully had an extra of. He just loved attention from anywhere he could get it. At the end of the day, the woman, thank God, came back. She said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. How was he?" And I said, "He was a champ," and was about to say, "But why is he here?" when she said,
That's a relief. Most kennels say he gets anxious around other dogs. I heard you operated at a much higher capacity. I was thrilled to see you had so few clients in the room at one time. So, how much do I owe you?
And that's when I realized she thought we were a dog daycare. Now, I probably should have corrected her, but I loved my day with the office dog, and I did want to get paid for supervising this strange dog all day. I just threw out the number that sounded fair and appropriate. "That'll be $20, I said. She replied,
Really?
in this very high tone, and I couldn't tell if I had overshot or undershot, but she paid me and left. My coworkers were laughing hysterically when they realized what had happened, and we thought it would just be a good story for the future. But the next week, she came back. She said we were so much more affordable and less overcrowded than her other place that she was happy to use us. I was glad for the company, so I just took him. I didn't think there was any way she couldn't have at least some idea we weren't a dog daycare. The whole ordeal was so strange, I just figured, don't question a good thing. I was much younger and dumber then. Not long after, Otis started getting dropped off 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 days a week. I was in heaven. He was such a love, and he made fast friends with the delivery guys and visitors.
One day, we took our office Christmas card photo, and Otis was over that day, so we included him in a Santa hat. It was pretty great. But it turns out Otis' owner was friends with one of our clients, who I guess happened to have the card out on her table or was kind enough to display it alongside her other holiday cards. Because one day, Otis' owner came in holding the card and walked up to me and said, "I can't even believe I'm asking this, but is that my dog in this photo? This isn't a dog daycare at all. This is just an office, isn't it?" She said it with a note of surprise, as though she was looking around and putting it all together for the first time. No coincidence that this was the first time she wasn't in some crazy rush either. She was like, "Then who are all these other dogs?" And I explained. I was terrified she was going to demand her money back, or worse, take some sort of legal action against us for misrepresenting ourselves as a dog care business, or complain to corporate. Instead, she basically said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" And I explained we just really liked having Otis around. She stopped for a minute and seemed to be thinking and said, "Is that right?" And I said yes, and told her the story of how I was the only one in the office without a dog, so loved the company. She seemed a little flummoxed or hesitant, understandably, because the whole ordeal was so weird. She turned to my coworker and asked if I was telling the whole truth. I don't know why she thought my coworker, also a stranger to her, was any more trustworthy than me. But hey, strange times. Coworker backed me up. So she said, "I wish you'd said something sooner. Could have saved me a lot of embarrassment with my friend back there. All right, I have to get going. See you at 4. And she left Otis. I couldn't believe it. I said, "So he can stay?" And she replied, "Where else could I find someone to watch him one-on-one all day for $20? And off she went. Otis stayed my office dog until his family moved away. Luckily, right around the same time, I took a new job. Karen has a total freakout at Walmart. This I will never forget. I used to work at my local Walmart, but I only worked there for 3 months, then quit because I couldn't work the schedule I was on. I worked the graveyard shift. That means I worked from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Fun. I quit because I would sleep all day and be up all night, have no time for family or friends, and I couldn't do that, nor was I able to switch to the day shift since there were no openings for the day shift. After 3 weeks of me quitting, I returned to do some shopping and to return my vest and name tag. I was standing at the customer service, waiting for the general manager to come get the vest and tag. As I was waiting, this woman, aka Karen, walks right up to me and crossed her arms and snarls at me. Me, "Can I help you?" Karen, "Yes, I've been waiting for you to stop talking for nearly an hour." Me, "I've been here for 5 minutes. What do you want?" Karen, "I need help. I want to buy a TV, but I can't carry it." Me, I don't work here, lady." The customer service girl holds in a giggle as she tries to calm down the Karen. "Yes, you do. You do work here. I saw you just a month ago working here." Me, "I quit like 3 weeks ago. I no longer work here. If you want help, how about you lose the bad Karen attitude of yours and ask nicely for help before demanding someone? No wonder why people think you're a jerk." We had problems with her multiple times. Karen goes on and on how she's gonna get me fired for this and how she knows the general manager. Me, "Go ahead, I don't care. I don't work here." I put the tag and vest down on the counter and did my shopping. The general manager comes up and fist bumps me as it was our way of saying hey to each other. He tells me what Karen said and laughed. General manager, "I swear, that woman is crazy. I tried to tell her that you don't work here." Me, "That's what I told her." Manager, "Don't worry, if she does anything, she will be banned." I finished up my shopping, and what do you know? Karen lost it on the manager for being so inconsiderate of her being harassed by me, and next thing she knew, she was banned for giving him problems. Karen declares war on my parents for cutting a tree down on their own property. I, 25 male, have been living away from home ever since graduating from college. My parents both retired recently, and last summer they decided to use some of the money they had saved up to finally build their dream retirement home in New Orleans, where they've been living for the past 10 years. I come from a very tight-knit family, so I still talk to my parents every week, and they were so excited when they said they had already picked out the location where they wanted the house built. It was an empty lot in a nice neighborhood where a house had been demolished not long before due to age, and the previous owner, who was pretty wealthy and owned numerous properties around the city, decided that the lot was worth more without the house on it. Anyway, My parents snapped it up as soon as it came on the market, but not long after construction began, they realized that they were building their dream house right next door to a lair of a wild Karen. The trouble started when my parents had to cut down a large oak tree that sat in the front of the lot. It was a real beauty too, one of those big southern live oaks, and although they didn't want to, they knew they had to remove it because it was in the way. No one likes to cut down a big beautiful tree, and believe me, if there was a way to avoid doing it without impeding the construction, my parents would have taken it. So they called a tree removal service, and the tree was soon gone. Well, a few days after the tree had been cut down, my dad was on the property talking to some of the construction guys and making sure that everything was going smoothly. He was going back to his car when he saw a woman in her late 50s walk out of the house next door and head to her mailbox. My dad, let's call him John, is a pretty chill and laid-back guy who likes to be on good terms with everyone. So he walked over and introduced himself. "Hi," he said, holding out his hand. "My name's John, and my wife and I are going to be your neighbors once our house is finished. I just wanted to come over and say hi and introduce myself. It's nice to meet you. What's your name?" Karen glanced at the extended hand, then looked up at my dad and glared at him.
"My name is none of your business," she snapped. "I'm not going to shake your hand because of lockdown. And even if there was no lockdown, I still wouldn't shake your hand because you people ruined my life when you cut down my tree. I still can't believe how selfish you are. You should both be ashamed of yourselves."
My dad was taken aback by this and pointed out that Karen already had a nice big oak tree in her backyard, but Karen ignored him and stalked back inside her house. She never explained why she thought she was the owner of the tree that had been cut down, not once, and whenever my parents asked about it, she refused to answer. I guess it's just one of those things we'll never know, like what really happened to the lost Roanoke colony or the fate of D.B. Cooper. My parents met some of their other neighbors later that day, including a nice elderly couple who lived in the other house next door to Karen, and when my dad told them what happened, the neighbors said Karen was like that to everyone, and no one in the neighborhood liked her. They also said that Karen had been nasty to them for a long time, and they were in the process of selling their house because they couldn't stand living next to her anymore. Karen soon began living up to her reputation. For months, whenever my parents would visit the house to see how the construction was coming along, she'd find something to complain or confront them about. One time, she said the construction workers were being too loud and threatened to call the police, even though it was the middle of the day. Another time, she said the construction company was using illegal immigrants as cheap labor and threatened to report them and have the whole project shut down. My dad mentioned this to the owner of the company, and the owner sent Karen a formal letter threatening a lawsuit if she tried. I don't know if there were any actual grounds for a lawsuit, but the threat must have worked because the authorities never showed up. Oh, and then there was the time she tried to have my parents' car towed for illegal parking when they parked by the curb of their still unfinished house. The first time my parents knew about this was when the tow truck showed up, but the driver took one look at where my parents' car was parked and told Karen he'd send her a bill for wasting his time if she called him again. I could go on. Karen did everything she could think of to try and interfere. She was absolutely relentless in her crusade to avenge a tree she never even owned. Happily, the house was completed despite her best efforts, and my parents finally moved in not long after the holidays. My mom told me later that she caught Karen watching them bitterly from her window as they were taking some of their boxes inside. She was concerned that Karen might keep going and try something else, but I guess Karen was too busy wallowing in self-pity over her failure or something because things were actually quiet for a while. But a few weeks ago, things changed. New Orleans has had some really bad weather lately due to the winter storms that are battering much of the southern US right now. And one night, one of those storms was so powerful that it knocked over the tree in Karen's backyard. It missed falling onto her house, but it didn't miss falling onto her shiny new Jaguar and crushing it like a beer can. According to my folks, Karen didn't discover what happened until the following morning. When she came outside and saw the pile of scrap metal that used to be her car, she threw back her head and let out a primal scream like something out of The Exorcist. She had to pay a tree removal service to get rid of the tree, and then she had to pay for a tow truck to get rid of the car too. And then she had a rental car too. Karen put her property up for sale and moved out not long afterward. Everyone in the neighborhood was glad to see her go, and my parents enjoyed watching her drive off into the sunset from the front porch of their amazing new house. Have you ever had a neighbor that you just couldn't stand? If so, what was wrong with them? Please tell us about it in the comments.
Has anyone ever not had a horrible neighbor?
Leave me alone, lady. I don't work here. The cast. We've got me, avid Pokemon enthusiast. We've got the store employee, and we've got Team Rocket Karen, the entitled parent, and Snuggles, the Eevee plushie. The story. So I, 33 male, am a huge lover of Pokemon, had just gotten paid, and decided I wanted to buy myself a Valentine's gift. I went to my local chain video game store, let's call it Video Game Go, because they have all kinds of collectibles. Having been there several times, I had seen a 24-inch Eevee plushie that I really liked. Perfect. Eevee is one of my favorite Pokemon, and this particular plushie could also be used for cosplay. Having grabbed my plushie and paid for it, and the bag that would give me a $5 discount on any collectibles that would fit inside it, I decided to look around for anything I might want to get on my next visit. Now, as it is rather cold here in Texas, I was bundled up in several layers, including rather warm, comfy sweatpants, a rather large ski jacket, a stocking hat, scarf, and had my backpack on, with Snuggles the Eevee and her exclusive Corgi Eating Noodles collectible bag. The employees of this particular video game chain store generally wear jeans, a t-shirt with the store logo or something similar, and a lanyard with a badge showing their name and the company logo on it. So there is no way I could possibly be confused as an employee. Enter Team Rocket Karen. Cue Team Rocket encounter music. Team Rocket Karen wants to battle. Snuggles the Eevee, I choose you. Karen, she had the typical Karen haircut and a look that screamed,
Where's your manager?
"Excuse me, do you guys have..." Enter game title here. Team Rocket Karen used confusion. It's super effective. Me. What? Team Rocket Karen used clap.
Do you have?
Enter video game title here.
God, some people are so slow.
Me. Snuggles the Eevee is confused. It hurt itself in confusion. What? Karen uses snap attack. Karen snapping her fingers.
I want.
Enter video game title here.
I'm going to buy it for my son.
Me. Snuggles the Eevee is still confused. I don't know. Maybe. Snuggles the Eevee used Shadow Ball. It hurt itself in confusion. It's at this point I was starting to realize this lady thinks I'm an employee. How her tiny Team Rocket brain made that connection is a mystery to me. I clearly don't look like an employee. Karen used Roar.
How do you not know? Are you stupid?
Me. Snuggles the Eevee is no longer confused. Whoa, lady. There's no need for that language. This is a family store. Besides, I don't work here. I just came to get this plushie. Snuggles the Eevee used Charm. It's not very effective. Karen.
Don't lie to me. Of course you work here. You shouldn't be shopping when you're working.
She used Confusion. Me. What? Snuggles the Eevee is confused. I'm now starting to get mad. I just wanted to browse the store. Lady, what about me makes you think I work here? I look like a bum. Why don't you go over to the counter and ask the actual employee for your game? Leave me alone. At this point, employee, who has heard the whole exchange, finally finished up whatever he was doing and can finally react. He comes over. Employee, what's going on here? Karen opened her mouth to start yelling at poor employee. I've worked retail for most of my life and have dealt with Karens and entitled people a lot. I wasn't going to let her spew her BS. Me. This jerk assumed I work here. When I tried to tell her that I don't, she lost her crap. Karen.
That's a lie. This bum just came over and pretended to work here. He stole my stuffed animal. I demand you throw him out and call the cops.
Employee and I stared at her in disbelief. Did she seriously try that crap? Employee. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You were clearly harassing this customer. I heard everything that was said. Also, I literally just sold this plushie to him. He even has the receipt for it in his hand. Now please leave before I call the police. Karen is faltering now.
But
leave now, lady. Employee used Hyper Beam. It's super effective. Karen has fainted. Karen, while storming out of the store.
See if I ever shop here again. And you can be sure I'll call corporate about the customer service in this place.
Employee and I looked at each other and burst out laughing at the absurdity of the whole situation. Employee. Sorry about that, dude. Is there something in the store I can offer as compensation? Me. Nah, dude, we're good. I have a new story for Reddit now. Employee laughed. hooked me up with some store credit, and promised to look up the story and upvote it. I took my Eevee plushie and headed out to get something to eat, still trying to wrap my head around the stupidity of some people. Speaking of Pokemon, who's your favorite Pokemon? Please leave a comment letting us know.
Mewtwo for the win.
Entitled parents think I'm not normal because I'm not what they expected, and so they hate me. I, 26 female, come from an average South Asian family. Being born a female means you're either married with kids or still living with your parents at this age. I'm the latter. My parents have been told by my extended family that they're the best parents in the world because my extended family as adults are jerks basically. So my parents really take it to heart and are convinced that they are indeed the best parents in the world. I agree that they had gone through a rough time raising us. We're a group of 5, 3 girls and 2 boys, so it couldn't have been easy. And we're all nice kids as well. But they're very concerned that we're not doing the conventional, stereotypical South Asian kids thing like everyone else, so they believe they're still perfect. It's only that we're not normal. I'm the main target because I have my own life. I've never had a romantic relationship because I like being alone better. I didn't become a doctor like they wanted me to. I follow international relations and gender studies instead. Instead of kids, I have cats, whom I love like one would love their kids. Instead of getting a husband, I'm career-focused and pursuing education. And worst of all, when they try to control and subjugate me, I fight back. When they compare me to others, I compare them with the parents of the person/people they're comparing me to. I earn my own money and spend it on things I love, mostly my cats. I am a writer and I am a reader and I am a fighter. For them, all of this is just not normal. There's something wrong with me because I don't fit into the mold that they created, and me not fitting in would essentially take their best parents title away. But my father doesn't speak to his kids like they're humans. I pointed out that I didn't like the way he speaks to me, so he said I was disrespectful. My mother likes to imagine I don't exist and pretends not to hear me. She has sharp ears to catch if it's something about them, but if I'm talking about a concern, she pretends not to hear me. But still, they believe they are the best parents in the world and that there's something inherently wrong with all of their kids. Edit. Wow, I wrote this out of sadness and frustration yesterday night, and I woke up to see it as blown up. Thank you everyone for your kind words, but I think there's a few things to clarify. Sorry that I didn't mention clearly. 1. I do not have a degree in gender studies. I have a degree in social statistics, which can get me a job anywhere else but here. I work as a math teacher. I'm interested in gender studies, but I went to a public university thanks to free education we have here, and I was selected for social statistics, and my university didn't let me study anything else. Selecting your majors isn't simple here, especially if college is free. Also, for free higher education, you need to pass your GCSEs with good results, and I only did enough to get me into the social statistics degree. 2. In my country, moving out really isn't simple. This might sound strange for people like you, but here, most people own their houses. They buy lands and build their own, so usually it happens when people get married. They live with their husband's family for a while, build their own house. There are no affordable one-person houses, and shared houses are either extremely expensive, they're made for the foreign market, as in foreigners who live here, or people who earn a lot of money. But my salary is average, but enough to sustain myself and other means. 3. Someone told me that I don't contribute to my family. I take care of my younger siblings. Until 2 or 3 months ago, I used to spend on them, then my laptop broke, so I informed my parents that I had to save money for the laptop and cut down on the share I spent for my siblings. I bought a laptop recently. They're also very expensive here, so now I will be able to spend for them again. I love my younger siblings, especially the youngest. She's only 14, but she's amazingly talented. I helped my parents in raising her. You know, taking her to school and checking up on her education and all. I also used to be my parents' personal counselor sort of thing. You know, when they think you're academically gifted, they take your advice on everything. So I listen to their problems and all, help them when they want to make decisions on my siblings' education and all. 4. I think there's this misunderstanding that my parents and I hate each other. I actually love them a lot, and I totally understand where they are coming from. My dad had a rough time growing up, so did my mom, so they probably want us to have the best. They grew up in a society where being successful as a doctor or engineer or becoming a teacher and getting married and having kids is the normal, and they see lots of kids doing that. Initially, I want to stay with my parents the whole time because they really need me to stay grounded. Despite them thinking that I'm not normal, they're tired and getting older, so I told them I will stay and take care of them and the youngest until she's old enough. Rather than getting angry,
Perhaps them seeing that I'm not doing the normal things makes them sad, I think. I feel bad for rebellion sometimes, but I did everything that they wanted. Got into a public university, got a good job. I want to live my own life. 5. I want to study gender studies for my postgraduates, but it's not offered here in my country at any university for some reason. So I do international relations for my postgraduates and learn gender studies in my own time. The reason is that I see a lot of GBV in my country, and all the things that I faced as a woman in the university, as well as everything that I and my sister had to go through as well. I think I want to make a difference for other women, and I know I started late, but I'm trying my best. 6. I write fiction. I started at age 7, and for that I'm thankful for my parents, but their outlook changed on it because I don't write in my own language. I write in English, so they think it's not worth reading and all. But I have a bunch of people who like my stuff, including myself, so I'm pretty happy with it. 7. I have 7 cats. They're all rescues. My parents used to support me with them all the time, but when they get sick or when one of them passes, I fall into depression, and they kind of hate it when that happens because they think I wouldn't be like that for them if they get sick. I try not to panic when they do, and I try to do what's necessary. I really hope my parents understand that I love them and my cats differently. Besides, we have good Medicare here if they get sick, but not a single vet surgeon that I can trust. Reach class on time, but you hate the smell? I'll make you regret it. This happened years ago, 2006 to 2009 era. So I went to school with separate sections for boys and girls, but we weren't secluded completely, and some elective classes were mixed. So there was this Karen teacher who really disliked boys. She always called us dirty and loud and yucky and would hit us and pinch us if one of us dared to talk back to her. We had her class mixed with girls, and they all would laugh at us boys for getting the drill and getting humiliated in front of them. The teacher actually enjoyed this, and she would purposefully find excuses to have us shamed for minor issues, like asking your friend for a pen while the girls yapped away and chatted with the teacher. She could not bear to hear us say a word. We were never given any opportunity to speak or answer questions, and she made sure the most difficult passages were given to read to this one boy with speaking difficulty. You get the idea. Basically, a jerk person. All of this behavior really upset me and made my blood boil with anger, but I never got any punishment because it was a language class, and I had always been the top of the class. Even her own daughter, who was with us in the same class, couldn't get past me. One year, we happened to have her class right after PE. Now, we didn't have any rules as to what was to be done in PE class, but we did get laps and push-ups after, which we were off to play cricket for the next 2 whole hours. The playground was a bit of a distance from the classroom, and it was shared by the high school and our middle school. It took about 3 minutes to reach her class from the playground. She hated that we were sweaty and reeked of body odor first day we came to class after we got our PE. She immediately went to the supervisor to have our schedule changed, where she got turned down. But she wasn't going to give up. I could see the hatred in her eyes burning brighter with every stinky breath she took in our class. Next, she implemented a rule saying that no one was allowed to be late more than 1 minute after the start, or they would be marked absent and have their marks cut. Fair enough, I thought. I talked to the teacher who had his period before our PE class, and he was willing to let us go early in exchange for working on a project for his class. I told the boys about my plan. We went to the ground half an hour early, played like heck as usual, got all sweaty, and then poured water all over ourselves to cool us off and rushed off to her class and were right on time, all soaking wet with soggy, disgusting, putrid training shoes, standing in a line in front of the classroom that only she had the keys to. We even took off our socks and kept them in our pockets just to make it smell extra bad. This was literal torture for her, as she had the full blast of the smell because it was a teeny tiny classroom and the boys were made to sit in the front as a rule for mixed gender classes. We made the excuse that we couldn't dry off because she marked us absent since we had to be at our lockers and the playground was not nearby and all of our lockers were out of the way. We kept at this for a full 6 weeks after, which she gave up and exchanged classes with a male teacher. We never gave him much trouble. He allowed us the keys and we were crisp and cool sitting in front of the AC ready for the class. Best revenge I ever had. Edit. It was 7th grade, and it was an Indian-owned school with kids from all over the world and Middle East. Am I the jerk for refusing to both cook and clean to cater to my husband's dietary needs? I, 34 female, and my husband, Paul, 35 male, have been married for a little over 2 years. We have no kids. Now, I know this is not how it is in every home, and I say do whatever floats your household boat. But here, if one cooks dinner, the other cleans. Turns out, Paul is not a gleeful cook and would rather clean, so almost all of the cooking falls on me, with the occasional takeout. And then lockdown. Paul works out of the home as an essential worker. I work from home. When it was September to October-ish, Paul comes to me and says he wants to eat healthier. Great, I love the man. I'd prefer he'd not have a heart attack. But Paul, my lovely Paul, of course had to take it to the 1003rd degree. He's trying all sorts of fad diets, and I mean all sorts. I've done my best, in my opinion, of complying with these ever-changing diets. It's only 1 meal per day, and besides, it can be fun finding recipes to match whatever weird criteria Paul has this week. This might be a me thing, but whenever I try a new recipe, or one I'm not too familiar with, I tend to be messier when cooking. I mean, it's one thing to kind of auto-cook the pasta recipe you've been making for years, and it's another to be like, oh crap, why are there lemons on the counter? Here, let me scroll through this woman's grandfather's apple orchard essay to see where I use the lemons. Oh, it was step 3, and now I'm on step 7. What's this about flour now? So now there is lemon juice in my eye, behind my contact, and I'm trying to retro flour this piece of meat. This is the problem. Paul came up to me Friday night and said that he doesn't think it's fair that I am so careless with mess when cooking. It makes his job so much harder. I reiterate, the man said the word careless, both syllables, like he wasn't a human with an ability to logically guess the future consequences of one's actions. I took a second and said, before we continue, what do you see as the benefit of your bringing up this conversation with me? And Paul, God bless his little duckling soul, goes, well, if you would clean up, say, half the mess while cooking or right after, it would make my job so much easier. And I asked, will you do half the cooking? And he said, looking me dead in the eye, well, no. I know I can be messy with cooking, using multiple pots, /pans, /bowls, etc. Like I said, especially when I'm cooking something new. But in my defense, I have to learn something new all the time because Paul comes to me with things like, hey, I'm now going to try to avoid tomatoes and peppers because Tom Brady said they're intestinal or inflammatory or whatever. Who cares? My proposal was that we stick to the original. He either cooks or cleans. I don't intentionally make a mess, but I do intentionally try to meet his diet needs. He says that because I work from home for fewer hours, that taking steps to clean up along the way or take a first swipe at cleaning after cooking is a good marital compromise. I refuse. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is her husband? Please let us know.
I'd tell that guy to just make his own food.
You want to flaunt stupid rules at a soon-to-be lawyer? Two can play this game. I was in my final year of law school. As part of our curriculum, we had to accrue a certain number of hours of out-of-class course-related activities. It was a pretty high number of hours, but if you sort of planned to do them over the course of the years, it wasn't so bad. Anyway, there was a list of the activity types you could use to fulfill this requirement: attending conferences, publishing a paper, writing a report on a lecture, etc. But there were caps on the number of hours you could accrue in each category, so you couldn't just do one thing. The highest cap was for law-related internships, almost 50% of the total requirement. So I planned around that and got into an internship in my final year, which would get me above the required number of hours. You had to log your hours in an online system, which required you to fill the beginning and end dates for the activity and the number of hours you wish to log. As internships here usually don't have a fixed end date, only a maximum of 2 years, but the company or I could terminate it early. I thought I would just file the paperwork as soon as I finished the internship and it would be golden. However, as soon as I did that, the system rejected my request, stating that I should have filed everything before the end of my internship. I figured this was pretty dumb, since anyone logging internship hours wouldn't know the end date or total hours before the end of their internship. So I went to the university's law department, which I thought would immediately correct this obvious mistake, right? Wrong. I basically got told, tough luck, by the professor in charge, and that I should have applied with a fictitious end date and amount of hours before I finished the internship if I wasn't sure of when I was going to leave it. At this point, I'm super anxious, as this internship represents about 50% of the hours I needed to graduate. I wasn't going to be able to make up for that before my graduation date, and I had already passed the bar exam. In my country, you can take it in your final year of law school. And then it dawned on me. It was so simple, I thought it surely wouldn't work. If they wanted me to fill the online form with made-up data, then by all means, that's what I would do. I logged back into the system and filled out the same information for my internship, but I put the end date in the future. When the system approved the request, I submitted my paperwork with a note. As per instructions of Professor Z, I hereby request an amendment to the end date of my internship period according to the attached documents. Got full credit for the hours I needed, graduated on time, have been working as a lawyer for the past 10 years. Edit. Wow, I wrote this and went to bed, and it blew up overnight. Thank you for the awards, people. You are amazing. For the people who are concerned that this report doesn't belong in malicious compliance, please read this subreddit's description. People conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. You don't need to leave someone else in a bad spot for it to be malicious compliance. Am I the jerk for telling my friend she doesn't give fashion advice? She just tells people they're too poor? I have one of these friends who's trying to become an Instagram model who eventually has a lifestyle brand. At first, her unsolicited commentary on our clothes or makeup bothered me, but eventually I kind of recognized it for what it was and set it aside. But recently, she's gotten a solid following based on rating people's looks and giving makeover advice. Now, sometimes younger people on campus will earnestly ask her for fashion advice. One of her most common tips is,
"Don't wear the same thing so often. By the time you wear an outfit a second time, there should have been enough time for people to forget you've ever worn it."
The problem is, that's only possible if you have a lot of different clothes to mix and match. Recently, I heard her giving a mutual friend some fashion advice, and it amounted to,
"I've seen you in that before. Don't wear it again. It signals that you don't care about your appearance, and therefore yourself, if you don't take the time to have different outfits every day."
I happen to know that friend is going through a really difficult time financially due to lockdown. So I finally, after a lot of less direct comments through the years, just said straight out, after the girl had left, "That's not fashion advice. That's just telling people they should have more money to spend on clothes," and explained a lot of her advice kind of translates to, "You're too poor to look good," if you don't have the money to execute the tips. Most of her advice is that kind of thing though.
Buy a brand new name bag, wear more jewelry, don't use convenience store makeup, etc.
So it led to her being really hurt as I broke it down and she realized it encompassed most of her repertoire. I didn't mean for it to be hurtful, it just seemed like something she needed to hear since I think she means well. She says I insulted her livelihood and am just jealous of her skills / don't respect her as a professional. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but I don't want her to hurt anyone either. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is her friend? Please let us know.
Her friend reminds me of myself in my younger years. Oh, how I wish Instagram had been around back then.
The avalanche of gift cards incident. This incident happened when I worked at a restaurant inside an amusement park around 5 years ago. One day, like normal, this nice elderly lady came to the register and asked me if she's allowed to pay for her food with a gift card. I told her yes, she can purchase the food with it, and if there's any left on the card, I can tell you if. Also, the remaining balance can be paid with either cash or credit. So she proceeded to order about $100 worth of food. She was with the family. Now, after what happens next, I should have said no in the first place. Why? She then proceeded to open up her purse and took out a huge stack of gift cards. Like for some reason, she had around 100 gift cards of this company in her purse. She told me that she buys the cards for her grandkids, and when the kids think they are done with it, they return the card to her. And she didn't know if the cards had money on them. So before she was going to discard them, she wanted me to process it to see if there's something in the cards, so it can be used to pay for the order. So me, since I told her yes, she started to give me the cards one by one. Some had just a few cents, some had a few dollars, and some had nothing at all. So after processing around 50, more or less, gift cards, she managed to pay for the whole thing with the leftover of all those cards. Now, the funny thing happens next. The computer/register thinks that every single card has a different owner. Therefore, it printed the same receipt around 50 times. The receipt that came out for each card would make the ones we get from going to CVS go to shame, or at least go toe-to-toe. Each receipt had all of the food, but also all of the deduction/transaction of every single gift card used in the order. The receipts came out one by one. After like the 10th one out, the lady stood in shock of how many receipts there were. The printer kept puking out more and more, to the point I was about to get covered with receipts if it wasn't for my supervisor and boss luckily showing up to see me trying to handle this predicament. They stood there with me, and like 5 minutes into this thing, the printer still giving more receipts. Then the whole roll of receipt paper ran out and asked for more paper since it still needed to print more. We replaced it and it kept giving us more and more. Another few minutes, and then finally stopped. So after this thing finished, I finally could get the next customer. Luckily, we have more than one register, so there was no downtime. But now it gets even funnier. When I took the next customer and I went through to open the menu button to input the customer's order, the computer/register decided to die. It just turned off. It didn't want to turn on. I checked everything. My supervisor and boss also did, and we couldn't find anything wrong. The register just went kaput, or decided it needs a break. But later on in the day, we managed to get it up and proceeded the day as normal. So yeah, this is one of the funniest incidents that happened to me when I worked at a restaurant. Am I the jerk for not giving my adult son a job in my company because of his attitude? My son, 26, male, is really hard to work with. I, 46, male, love him, but let's be honest, he is a jerk at the workplace. He does not know how to argue, and every little argument is like a state of survival. He does not understand where to stop. If he's arguing with someone, he will go any way to win that fight for him. His therapist/psychiatrist said he has borderline personality disorder, and he uses antipsychotics, but it's still in a really uncomfortable level. I also raised him single. His mom was an addict, and she is currently in a full-term care center due to severe disabilities after a traffic accident. My son only saw her twice in his whole life. My son never managed to hold a job other than working as an independent data analyst for pharmaceutical sector. He is really hard to work with, really rude, and he does not understand teamwork. I also manage a company in healthcare sector. We, me and my brother-in-law, have a company that produces spare parts for medical devices. This month, our company needed a data analyst, and my son had just had a contract finish, so he was free, but I directly shut down the idea. I love my son as a dad, but as a boss, I would fire him in the first week. He means trouble. I told all of this in executive board meeting. My brother-in-law agrees with me, but one of the board told this to my mom. She is also a close friend of mine and supported me in this journey, and she told it to my son. My son and I had a big fight, and he had to be hospitalized due to mental disturbance. Everyone thinks I still see him as a baby, and I'm trying to helicopter him. Edit. The board member is my mom's goddaughter and a real close friend of mine. It's the most normal thing for her to say to my mom. Also, my mom did our accounting for a while when we first started as a company, so I trust them both. Edit. Second, I'm not firing my executive board member, and it was just a genuine mistake she made. She never thought, neither did I, my mom would give this kind of reaction. We learned to be more discreet against my mom now. So, am I the jerk, dear folks? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is his son? Please let us know.
That's how I feel working with you every day, Mr. Reddit.
Am I the jerk for allowing my cats to be cats? To give a little background, I just moved into a pet-friendly apartment 2 days ago. I have 2 cats. One is 5 pounds and the other is 8 pounds. This apartment is on the 2nd floor and all of the floors are hardwood. There's also no verbiage on the lease requiring tenants to put down carpets in these units. When I was looking at this apartment, the landlord stated that the downstairs tenant can be a bit sensitive to noise. At the time, I thought he was being a little extreme, but I've since learned that's not the case. On the day I moved in, the neighbor from downstairs decided to introduce himself. During his introduction, he mentioned that in the past he's had a lot of issues with noise from the unit I'm moving into, and that he hoped we'd be good upstairs neighbors. I told him that I'm generally a quiet person and that noise shouldn't be an issue. Well, today when I got home from work, I found a notice on my apartment door from management stating that I was reported for having dogs in the apartment, which is against the lease, and that if I don't correct the situation immediately, I'll be evicted. I find this shocking because 1, I don't have dogs, and 2, the landlord knows I have 2 cats. I immediately sent an email to my landlord stating that I don't have dogs and that I believe he put the notice on the wrong unit. I'm still waiting for his response. Cats being cats, they tend to get the zoomies every now and then, which basically amounts to them running up and down the hall and jumping up and down from the couches. Along with this, there's also jumping from the couches to the cat tree to the floor during the non-zoomy time and playing with their toys, which have bells and such, but should not be audible from the lower floor. To me, this is all reasonable noise considering this is a pet-friendly apartment. It's not like I have 2 obese cats either. They're both under 10 pounds, and I keep their claws trimmed to limit the clacking and to save my furniture. Yesterday, before I received this complaint, I bought a 16-foot runner to go down the hallway so that the cats don't make as much noise while running. But regardless of the carpet, which will arrive next week, I feel that he's being unreasonable and has a warped perspective on what apartment living is like, especially for someone on the 1st floor. There will always be noise, and that's just a fact. I shouldn't have to feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own apartment. Am I the jerk?
Do this next. Tap the video that just popped up on your screen. You won't believe what happens in that one.